Yeah, what's going on, party people, in the place to be? I go by the name of the BK Apologist, transmitting all the way live. New York is the city, Brooklyn is the borough. What's good? What's popping? I have the honor and privilege to be joined by the second half of the EPMD of urban apologetics. You know him better as Mr. True ID himself. Give it up for Mr. Adam Coleman. What's going on, sir?
What's good, bro? What's good? So if I'm the second half, that's the M and the D. I think it's for making dollars, which I certainly wouldn't mind. Bro,
there you go.
By themselves. So I'll definitely take that, bro.
There you go. See people jumping in. I see my man MJ Jackson's in the building. We got Rome G in the building. Ty a lot. We got my sister Ileana. Que lo que? You know what I mean? We got Letitia. What's it, Latasha? It's Latasha, right? Want to make sure. Yeah, we got Harlem Uptowns in the building. You already know.
Yeah, you got all the boroughs, man.
We're trying, man. We got to try to get everybody. We need Queens up in here. We need the BX. Let's see what happens. So, sir, why are we on tonight?
Well, you know what? Actually, we probably should have talked about it before we got started. I guess our reasons have probably changed now. Originally,
a little bit, yes.
Yeah. So the original idea is that there was going to be there was a debate schedule. It was going to be a doubleheader between you had Brother Jabari, who a lot of people remember from the last breakdown that we did. He was supposed to be debating a gentleman who goes by the name of Garfield or Brother Garfield. I don't want to mess his name up. I think he goes by Brother Garfield.
Yeah.
And then also that was going to be the kind of like the undercard, if you will. And then you were also going to have Dr. Vince Bantu, one more again, you know what I'm saying, in the ring, and he was going to be debating Captain Tazariak. However, just as of, I guess maybe yesterday, I mean, pretty much within the last 24 hours or so, we've come to find out that that debate has been canceled. And so really this was supposed to be like kind of a warm-up going back to our previous lives where we were doing breakdowns. We were going to break down those debates as well. And this was going to be kind of like a warm-up to that. Right. But it's been canceled. So, but we're still moving forward with this breakdown. And I don't know if we want to get into it, but I mean, it's still all good because we had other breakdowns that you and I were talking about. So maybe we can tell them about that.
Well, I want to make sure that the reason people know why the debate was canceled. Nobody backed out. Nobody was backpedaling.
Right.
It was that Rona that's running around rampant. That Rona, the coronavirus. In New York, all the CUNY schools, the City University of New York, are, of course, they're only having online classes. And this debate was in St. Francis College, which is part of the CUNY system. So therefore, we can't have the debate. The debate is postponed. It's not canceled, right?
Yeah,
right. Sanetta was live, I think, today, and he kept his deposit with St. Francis. So hopefully in the next few months, they will reschedule. So it's still happening. It's just postponed. So nobody got scared. Nobody backed out. Right. So I'll put it out there. But
yeah, I mean, it was really beyond, their control. You know what I'm saying? Right. I mean, it'd be interesting to kind of, I know there's a lot of drama and all this kind of stuff with the last debate about, who was in it and who didn't debating. But I think this one should be, we shouldn't see all that. I mean, nobody was really at fault. I mean, it's just, what can you do, man? The place is shut down.
Right.
So I'm sharing this right now on my channel. That's what I'm looking down right now.
No doubt. So in preparation, we want to do a tune-up, a pregame warm-up for the debate. And though the debate is not happening, we still want to speak about a few things because we saw a recent video that appeared with two individuals that were talking about the upcoming event. And they were making some points about how they see Christianity. And we saw the video and we took it upon ourselves to respond to the video.
Yeah.
And huh?
That's a good way to put it. We just want to do a gentle, thorough response.
See, when you say it, I don't know, man.
I'm keeping it chill, man. I'm on your channel. You know what I'm saying? So
okay.
I gotta keep the decorum,
I appreciate that. And well, you want to talk a little bit about what the video we're talking about is?
Yeah, we probably should. I was thinking about that. I mean, I guess we could have talked about it, but it probably would be good to give maybe like a brief backstory as to the individuals that are involved.
Mm-hmm.
So like you want to kind of chime in on that, and then I can maybe, because you know more about it than I do, I think, probably.
Well,
And
I mean, it was on Sonetta. Now, those of us who might not know who Sonetta is one of the vanguards of the conscious community. He's very well known. He's been a part of that community for a very long time, and his platform is pretty substantial. It's pretty huge, and a lot of what we know about the community gets promoted on his channel. And he had two individuals that were on that day. It was Professor Smalls and Zion Lexx, and they were having a intimate interview. They're interviewing each other about various subjects, and one of the subjects, of course, was the upcoming debate about Christianity. And they decided to have a quick 20-minute convo about Christianity, and both individuals made claims about the belief system that we would like to respond to. Now, with that being said, this is not an attack on Zion Lexx or Professor Smalls at all. It's not personal. I don't know these gentlemen personally. They have never done anything to me.
Right.
From what I see, they both love them some black people, and they want to see black people win. Sure. I respect that 100%. Mm-hmm. And Zion's from Brooklyn, so you already know I got love for them.
Okay, yeah. So you got
rip. Rip. You know what I mean? So it has nothing to do. Look at BB Actors. I am not being messy. All right, stop that. I am not being messy. But it's all love. We're just dealing with some of the claims that were made. There is no beef. There is no personal attacks. That's not how we get down at all. So
not at all.
Get at him.
And I think sometimes that kind of gets confused, man. People think just because you disagree, and even just because you disagree sharply, that therefore, like, oh man, like they coming at you, or we're coming at them, or whatever. Right. And it's really not like that at all. I mean, most people know how we get down. I mean, especially if you were following the last breakdowns, y'all know what it is, man. We joke around and things like that, but I mean, it's definitely no ill will towards anybody, right. Man. And
absolutely,
it's good to kind of be clear about that on the front end. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes people will get it twisted.
In fact, what I would like to do right now is actually share a scripture people can understand why we're doing what we're doing. We're not just doing this to get our views up. You know what I mean? So
right.
Let me just share this real quick. All right, let me see if you can see that. You can see that. Okay, great. It says in 2 Corinthians 10, starting in verse 4, "For the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but have divine power to destroy strongholds. We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God, and take every thought captive to obey Christ." Amen. So when someone makes a claim or critiquing against Christianity, we have a biblical mandate to deal with these statements and claims. So that's why we're doing it. We're not doing it because we are offended and it's gang and we're gonna run up on these dudes. Like that's not what we're doing. It's that we are here to destroy arguments and any lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God. That's why we're doing what we're doing. So I just want to share that real quick.
Yeah, you know what, too, and I certainly don't want to impose anything on the scriptures. You know what I'm saying? But if you're going to destroy arguments, then it's helpful to be a clear thinker. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's one thing that I respect about BK Apologist. And one thing I try to convey myself is being a clear thinker. You know what I'm saying? Like one thing that we did, which I think I believe that people appreciated about our last series of breakdowns, is it wasn't just like rah we rock with Vince Bantu, what I'm saying, he's a Christian and we ride with him. It was, hey, these are the arguments point for point. I'm saying these are the supporting evidence. Here's how we think through these kinds of things. This is what this word means, or this is what type of argument that is. You know what I'm saying? And those are the kind of things that's really what these breakdown sessions are about. You know what I'm saying? Because it really does no good to the community if you and I are the only ones discussing these things. I mean, I could just call you on the phone and we could talk about this stuff.
That's true.
And we do. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But we want to kind of broaden that conversation because as Christians, we ought to be clear thinkers. I'm saying we ought to be using the mental faculties.
Yeah.
I'm saying, that God gave us. We ought to be loving God with our mind. I'm saying things of that nature. And I think that we can do that by we can love God with our mind by using our mind. I'm saying in a productive, helpful way. I'm saying
Absolutely.
Also being cognizant of the fact that as the scripture tells, knowledge puffs up. I'm saying? So it's not about, to get this ammunition together, these facts or whatever, that now I'm going to go beat up on somebody. No, that's not what this is about at all. I'm saying what this is about is making sure that the truth shines through. I'm saying more particularly the truth of the gospel. So yeah,
absolutely. So I think with that being said, I think we need to share this video, and we can stop it and make points as we go along. So.
Okay, cool. So give me 1 second here.
Yes, sir.
Y'all know what it is, man. I'm a little rusty, man. I'm a little rusty.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
While you doing that, I'm gonna say what's up to the chat. I see Mr. Perry's in the building. What's good? We got Lady B
in the building so far, by the way.
Oh, we got Beatrice. We got Rome G. We got Latasha in the building.
He said Warren G.
No, man. Rome
right.
G.
You remember Warren G back in the day? Well, yeah, you probably didn't rock Warren G because that's West Coast. You probably didn't rock Warren G because that's.
I mean, he was cool. He wasn't never on my top 10 or anything like that.
Oh yeah, I don't think he's in anybody's top 10. I
but I respect
his family or something like that. I don't think he's really cracking the top 10 of anything. Let me just share this joint. Hey, I'm sharing this right now on Facebook. And I would just encourage everybody else, while we get a second year to do the same, man. Share on Facebook, wherever you're at. Let me turn my volume up so everybody can hear once I start playing this video. And we should be about ready to go. Yeah, this is a doozy right here, man. This is interesting. So I guess we'll just kind of play a couple minutes, and then
more like a couple seconds.
Yeah.
Big up to Frugal Survivor. That's an ill name, bro.
Frugal
Survivor. That's amazing.
He survived.
Always listen, first time live.
Frugality.
Thank you, man. Thank you for coming in, man. We definitely appreciate it. That's a dope name. Frugal Survivor. Wow. That's what's up.
Dope. Definitely dope. Okay, so I'm actually sharing it from a different program. I'm hoping that it works out better.
Now you want to experiment on my channel, bro? Really?
I know, man. I think we might be okay though.
Oh, okay. I think all right. Here we go.
Yeah, all right. So what happens if I expand that? How's that look?
Yeah, it's good. Can you guys see that?
Yeah, it might be pretty good. That's pretty much the only thing.
MJ's already starting. I'm not even going to share what you said, bro. You wild.
Oh,
he already started, man. It didn't take him long.
Right.
It didn't take him long.
But those kind of logistics, those things matter, man. Hashtag. I'm not even gonna put it. I'm not even gonna say it. But I just leave it there.
Yeah. We just leave that. Yeah.
Are you ready to roll?
Let's do it.
All right. In the words of my man David Wood, TikTok, time to rock.
All right.
There we go. I'm just skip the intro part. I forgot about that. Let me just skip that.
So good.
It's just music, y'all. So I'm gonna skip straight to when they start talking to one another.
The House of Consciousness Productions. And there are people who base their entire lives and even livelihoods on these foundational systems. And I think that in our community, one of the reasons why this conversation is so important is because those who are conscious of the belief system of our ancestors, we want to make a clear distinction between how we embrace, even cultivate and envisage the God of the universe versus what our enemies told us. So we need to have that distinction on record so as to know for surety that we are not partaking in the religion of those who kidnapped and stole us. Right. So one of the reasons why this is important is because
I'm actually gonna stop it already, man.
Others,
all right,
already, So I want people to think about what now. So just to clarify for those who may not know, so the gentleman on the left-hand side of the screen, at least it is, at least it's my left,
Mm-hmm.
In the red, I'll put it that way. The gentleman in the red, his name is Zion Lexx. And I guess broadly speaking, he subscribes to the more Hebrew Israelite. Well, I guess he would consider himself a Hebrew Israelite.
He's a Tanakh only Hebrew.
Tanakh only Hebrew Israelite. He's of that community. And then on the right-hand side, you have Professor James Smalls, who's over there in the blue. Now, Professor James Smalls would be definitely considered one of the OGs, of the specifically of the Kemetic tradition.
Yep.
And he also deals with, West African religions. And I guess he probably would say just kind of African religions or spiritual systems in general. So that's kind of who we're dealing with here. Now, I thought it was very interesting off the bat what Zion Lexx said. He said, for those of us who have an awareness of our, our ancestors, spiritual systems, so forth, basically his whole thing was we want to make sure that we're not engaging in the spiritual practices of our oppressors. That we want to be certain of that,
Right.
And I find that fascinating because I think that, and it'd be interesting to hear him expound more on that. But it's, to me, put it this way. I got a martial arts background. I'm not saying like I'm Chuck Norris or anything like that, or whatever, but you
got them hands.
Yeah. I did a little bit, you have to have a solid base, particularly when I think about like judo, for example. If you're off base, if you're off balance,
right,
then you're engaging somebody else, then it's easier for that person to overtake you, right? And so I look at critical thinking the same way. If you're starting off on the wrong foot, if you're already off balance, in terms of the way that you approach a particular issue, then the more and more you get into it, you're going to be overturned, towards something fallacious, something false, something erroneous. Okay. And so when I hear, and I'll put it this way, what this made me think of, I'll try to be as charitable as I can, but what he said, what it made me think of is a form of the genetic fallacy. Now, most people, a lot of times we talk about the genetic fallacy, we're talking about how there's actually, it's a two-sided definition. One side of it is if you reject a claim or a position based upon how somebody came to believe it or based upon its origins, right? Typically, we understand the genetic fallacy that way. But the reality is, it's actually a two-sided fallacy in the sense that it's also the genetic fallacy to adopt, a proposition
because of where it came from.
Because of where it came. Yeah, exactly. Right. It can happen either way, right? And so, when we think about, the ancestors, he's like, okay, well, for those of us who have this awareness of the ancestors, and I say this all the time, is that you can have, let's say that exactly where you come from in West Africa or whatever, and let's say that you have, through archaeological study, through understanding the oral histories and what have you, let's say you just have a full description of what it was that your ancestors believed. So what they believed. That still wouldn't answer the question as to whether or not what they believed was true. You got to go an additional step, to have justification for then affirming what it is that your ancestors believed. Because just because they believed it, that don't mean it's true. Why should you believe it? Why should you adopt it as a spiritual system or worldview or what have you, right? And then likewise, the flip side of the coin is, let's say, even if it were the case, that, these white folks come in, they're the enemies, and they just, just ransack Africa and impose Christianity. The question is, the world is what it is, independent of what we think about it. So even if some people are using, certain realities or truths in a wrong way, that doesn't mean that it's all of a sudden not true.
Right.
So, for example, the same enemies had a mathematical system that, related to buying and selling Africans. Then they use mathematics to buy and sell Africans. Now, does that mean that addition is false? Right. Does that mean that, just basically mathematics should be rejected? Right. No, because mathematics reflects something about the real world. And so likewise, when we think about the historical realities of the resurrection, we think about the broader worldview of Christianity, then we can demonstrate that there's good reason to affirm Christianity, regardless of how Europeans engaged in it, and professing Christians, were involved in the transatlantic slave trade. And so when I hear somebody say, "Oh yeah, with this awareness, of my ancestors. We want to make sure that we're not participating in, the practices of the enemies. My thing is, what's more fundamental is evaluating either system for its truth value,
right,
and not just who used it and who subscribed to it. The question is, what is the truth about the belief system or worldview, spiritual system that these different groups subscribe to? That's what you really want to get at.
Yeah, what I always like to say is, 2 + 2 = 4, even if Hitler says it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it doesn't matter where it comes from. Truth is truth, regardless of where or whom it comes from.
Exactly.
So yeah.
So that's the one I always want to kind of get there.
No doubt.
If I could,
I
want to share. Can I share another screen? Can I share 2 screens at one time, or do I have to kind of?
I'm not sure. Try, see what happens.
I think it's telling me I gotta. I think I gotta take this one down. But I also wanted to.
Yeah, do it.
Let me go and take that down right quick. And you know what? I've got some links that I want to share coming up here in a minute too. So
okay,
I'm definitely gonna want to make sure I have that queued up and ready to go. I gotta figure out how to do that though.
We got Jones. Shout out to Adam for dropping that judo apologetics. Yeah, that's coming from his up and coming book, Black Belt Apologetics.
Black Belt.
It should be in Amazon about. Now I'm playing. It's not.
Right.
But hey, you never know, right?
I mean, hey, yeah, shoot, why not? Why not?
Black Belt Apologetics.
This will just be real quick. I got this PowerPoint.
Sure.
Cover some of these slides here.
Hey, listen, my office is closed tomorrow. We can go.
Oh man, hey, you good then, bro? I got a 3 or 4 hour job tomorrow, but hey, whatever.
Man.
Okay, so kind of piggyback. Let me see, is that up there? Okay, yeah. So piggybacking off of what I just said, I just actually spoke about this while I was in Nebraska. Shout out to my man Quentin Rogers, Pastor John, and Church on Purpose out there. But when you're dealing with objections to Christianity, I'm saying, or really anything, to be honest, it's helpful to be able to identify what kind of objection you're dealing with. Okay. Now, actually, I'm using these terms. I got this from reading Alvin Plantinga. This is kind of how he divides it up. But there's, broadly speaking, there are 2 kinds of objections to Christianity that you're going to encounter. It's going to be de facto objections or de jure objections. Okay. Now, de facto objections is pretty much how it sounds. I mean, it's just, basically saying that Christianity or some aspect of it is factually untrue. So this would be claims like Jesus never existed, God doesn't exist, Jesus didn't rise from the grave. People are saying that this or that is factually untrue. Okay. But when we're talking about de jure objections, that's something totally different. That's the kind of objection where people are saying that there's some other reason to reject a particular position. Like it's irrational, illogical, or it's immoral. I'm saying those are the kind of categories that Alvin Plantinga lists as being de jure objections. So it's not about whether something's true or false. Is that this particular claim or spiritual system or belief or whatever has some other quality to it, aside from whether it's true or false, that still warrants it being rejected. Okay, now,
and the jure, wouldn't that be more about someone opposing it based on their own worldview?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have, there's going to be some basis. I'm saying, and actually, I'm glad you said it. So, for example, this notion of Christianity being anti-African, right? Now, it could be the case that Jesus rose from the dead, Jesus is God, everything about Christianity could be true, I'm saying, and somehow, for whatever reason, Christianity is anti-African. Now, that's not the case, I'm saying, but my whole point is whether or not God exists, the factual, whether that's factual or not, I'm saying, is independent of whether Christianity is anti-African or not. Right. You see what I'm saying? So my whole point is, that would be an example. So like in our context, this notion of something being anti-African, and people making that allegation, that's a type of de jure objection to Christianity. So when Zion Lexx says that, it was what our enemies used when they stole us or something, however he put it, or basically he pasted in the category of worldview that is on that European side of the coin. That's a de jure objection. I'm saying it has nothing to do with whether Jesus rose from the dead or whatever. And so my whole point is, we want to be kind of keep track of that when you're engaging people, because what I like to say is like, okay, that's interesting. my question is, let's get down to brass tacks. Let's talk about did God exist? I mean, does God exist? Did Jesus exist? And let's get down to the facts of the matter. I'm saying, sometimes it is important to engage the de jure objections. I'm not saying it's not, but it's helpful to keep those categories in mind when engaging people.
And also, does your worldview even allow you to make that objection?
Yeah, true, good,
right? Because one of the objections you showed was it's immoral. Like, well,
Right.
based on what?
Where
do you anchor your morality in? Because if there isn't anything, then at best you could say, I don't prefer Christianity, as opposed to saying that it's morally wrong. You know what I mean? So
true, absolutely. I'm trying to figure out how do I drop stuff in the chat. I might have to do it from my other through my phone or something like that.
You just do it via the YouTube, right? You could do it from the YouTube channel.
Oh yeah, you know what? I'm gonna bring that up. I'm bringing YouTube up. That way I have it running at the same time.
Yeah,
that's what I do.
Just when you do, just mute your YouTube channel so there won't be a latency issue.
Right. Okay. Yep. Cool. It is muted. Sure is.
Cool.
All right. So I guess we can go back to the video.
Yes, sir.
Do that. If I'm trying to find my way back to to the right screen. I'm all over. I gotta find my way back to the right screen. Where am I at here? Oh, okay. There we go. But yeah, that's just a little pro tip, man. Definitely want to keep track of that. What kind of objection are you dealing with, and that's going to help you to figure out which way you want to go with it.
Please share the link, guys. All right.
Share the link.
All right. Here we go.
Here we go.
It secures who we are as a people, and more importantly, it also secures our spiritual beliefs. So, in the community right now, we have our good brother Jabari, who is arguing on behalf of the idea that Christianity represents stolen goods, essentially, or intellectual property, which was taken out of Kemet and not properly attributed. And as I've stated, I agree, and clearly you agree. Mm-hmm. Now, the position that our other good brother, Brother Garfield, has taken is that he doesn't believe that Christianity has a Kemetic fingerprint or stamp, and he says that in order to do so, there's a whole order of operation that everyone is not looking at. So I want to first kind of present his argument and then ask you to kind of weigh in from an elder's perspective, an elder in knowledge first. So here's what I want to say. So Garfield says, in order to prove that Christianity comes from Kemet, the first thing we have to do is to be able to ascertain whether or not the people who are framing Christianity can read the language of Kemet, which he's also going to use in the debate to say, since Brother Jabari doesn't read the Metanetta, he cannot come to these conclusions. So that's the first thing I would like you to weigh on. Is it necessary for those who are creating Christianity based on Kemetic spirituality to know the language?
To some degree. Mm-hmm. The people who are creating Christianity is not the Romans.
Okay.
They're under the Roman domination.
Okay.
The people who created Christianity is Kemetic people.
That's right.
All right. These are the priests who live in Kemet.
Mm-hmm.
These are the people who live in what we call the Middle East. Mm-hmm. And these are the people that Constantine bring to the Nicaean conference. And remember, they don't do one conference, one city. You got the first Nicaean conference, second conference, the second conference.
I knew you was going to get him on that, but go ahead, rock out. What you got, bro?
Yeah, and again, much respect to the elder, right? This is not an attack, So he's making the point that there were Kemetic priests at the Council of Nicaea. Now, for me, that's breaking news, because I've never, no disrespect, I just never heard that before.
Yeah,
but the thing is, we know actually who was at the council. Like, it was recorded. People were there and they took notes while the council was taking place. And I just want to share a few things. So if you can stop sharing from your side, Adam.
Okay. All right,
cool.
There you go.
So cool. When he said that, I'm like, wow,
we might be rocking out on this for a while. I got a feeling because I got some stuff with that as well. But yeah, but go ahead though.
Yes, sir. All right, so here we go. So this is from the 2,000 Years of Coptic Christianity. It says here, Eusebius of Caesarea, the author of Ecclesiatio, history
mm-hmm.
in the 4th century states that Saint Mark came to Egypt in the 1st or 3rd year of the reign of Emperor Claudius, AD 41-43, right? Well, you know what? I don't think this is the slide I wanted. Hold up.
Okay.
This ain't the slide. Hold up. Here we go. This is from Theodoret of Cyrus, Ecclesiastical History of Theodoret. It says here, Constantine had invited all 1,800 bishops of the Christian church within the Roman Empire, about 1,000 in the east and 800 in the west. But a smaller, unknown number attended. Eusebius of Caesarea counted more than 250. Athanasius of Alexandria counted 318. And Eutychius of Antioch estimated about 270. All three were present at the council. Later, Socrates Solaticus recorded more than 300, and Evagrius, Hilary of Poitiers, Jerome, and Dionysius Egius, man, these guys have some names, and Rufinus recorded 318. This number, 318, is preserved in the liturgies of the Eastern Orthodox Church and the Coptic Orthodox Church of Alexandria, right? So we have all these eyewitness accounts, and yeah, the body count varies, but not by much. But the thing is, people were there and they were counting heads. Right. So I think if there was a contingent of Kemetic priests, they would have been mentioned in these various lists.
All right, can I say something on that right quick?
Yeah.
Because this is a point that I'm gonna return to this point later. But
in fact, I'm actually done. I'm gonna stop sharing right now. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, actually, let me share my screen right quick.
Yes, sir.
So let me take this off here, and I'm actually just gonna piggyback, right where you left off. You know what I'm saying? So first, what I want to say is, I mean, obviously, man, we know that there's a billion and one theories about what did or didn't happen at the Council of Nicaea.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And people just make these claims, but the first question we want to ask is, where are your sources?
Right.
Where can I find what you're saying in sourced out? I'm saying you got to give me some primary source, secondary source, something. You know what I'm saying? To substantiate your claim. That's just history in general, particularly ancient history. We need to be asking folks for primary sources. Now, with the Council of Nicaea, there's really doesn't have to be any mystery about what happened at the Council of Nicaea. You know what I'm saying? Like, believe it or not, historians have a pretty good idea. I mean, they're very confident about what happened because there's loads of sources. Right now, you know what I'm saying, we can list out Eusebius. You know what I'm saying? And hopefully people will go back, later on, and I'm just basically providing a list and you can go look it up. I'm saying, but these are the sources, you know what I'm saying, of information. This is where scholars look to glean what happened at the Council of Nicaea. They have the works of Eusebius, where you have the life of Constantine, the epistle of Eusebius, Athanasius. He has letters where he's writing about the Council of Nicaea. Eustace, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that. That looks like right? But as you mentioned, Socrates, Scholasticus. You know what I'm saying? Let me go to the next slide. Theodoret, you just mentioned him a second ago. You know what I'm saying? He's got the works where he's talking about what happened at the Council of Nicaea. Rufinus, I'm not gonna try that one either. So Philos, Agrius. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are all sources that we have extant works right now. You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, I have them right now in my hand. Like, this is it. You can actually buy this on Amazon. I'm saying, as a matter of fact, and as soon as I finish talking, I'm going to put the link to it in the chat. Now, granted, it costs you a pretty penny, but you can buy all the Nicene and post-Nicene fathers. This right here, this is Socrates, Sozomenes. You know what I'm saying? That's what this is right here. I also have Eusebius. I got the works of Eusebius right here. You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, before I get up out of here, I got some links where, now this is going to cost you a couple $100, this whole set. But I got some links where you can get it online for free. You know, you can get at least some of these works for free. So you got Eusebius right here. You know what I'm saying? You've got Theodoret. You know what I'm saying? I got him right here. You know what I mean? Like, this we have this information. There's no mystery about this stuff right here. And I'm gonna read that when we get to a little bit later on, when we're talking about what happened at the Council of Nicaea, I'm actually going to read a portion from this. This is all the works of Athanasius right here. This is all the works of Athanasius in my hand right now. So if I want to know what happened at the Council of Nicaea, I don't have to. It doesn't have to be a mystery. I'm saying you can Google it. I'm saying you can look for sources online, or you can actually just buy it. You can have it in your hands like I do right now, and you can go to sources, which I will in a minute. I'm saying that gives you an understanding of what took place at the Council of Nicaea. So when people like, with all due respect, people like Professor Smalls, when they're making claims like, there were these Kemetic priests of the Council of Nicaea, then what I want to see is that they go to sources like these, and I want them to give me paragraph, page number, and so forth, where they can show me, okay, cool, here's where it mentions that this such and such Kemetic priest or these Kemetic priests were present at the Council of Nicaea, or whatever other people want to say. When people want to talk about, the Bible was created at the Council of Nicaea, they created Jesus at the Council of Nicaea, whatever claim you want to make, go to the sources and show me. It's not hard. It's not hard. You know what I'm saying? We need to really start pushing back on these folks. You know what I'm saying? So, as you're talking, I'm going to put the link in the chat where you can either purchase it, and I'm also going to give you where you can find these translations for free online. I'm looking at it right now on my laptop.
So I was looking for anything that was even close to a reference to what the elder said in the video. And so, I scoured the interwebs like I do. Okay. All right. And I found something. Now, I am not saying that this is where he got his information from, but this is the closest I can get that kind of goes and corroborates what he was trying to say. So I need you to stop sharing the screen.
All right, let me get there. Boom.
All right, cool. So again, I'm not saying he got it from here, but this is the only thing I found. All right, so okay. All right, it's a book entitled "Jesus Pimped Barabbas' Sermon on the Black Christ" by MC.L. Lee Jest. Okay, I did not make this up. This is an actual book.
Is that MC illegitimate? Is that what it says?
Illegist?
And the illegitimate sources? Is that what it is?
And this is from page 15. So he says Aristotle was repaid by receiving the priceless books of the temples of Kemet when Alexandria invaded Egypt. Truth goddess would never accept a mortal as God. However, corrupt Kemetic priests accommodated the invaders. Himself, Pharaoh, and god Barabbas, Osiris Apis, with an image of a bearded Babylonian god that eerily becomes the face of Jesus, presented at the Council of Nicaea.
Oh my God!
So there's no footnotes.
Of course.
There's no bibliography.
Of course.
It's just a stream of strange statements cobbled together. So this is the closest I have found as a source that has something to do with some kind of secret cabal of Kemetic priests and Grecian Roman rulership. You know what I mean? So
right.
That's all I found. So
that kind of kills that. No, I do want to get back to. I mean, MC illegitimate sources. You know what I'm saying? but so my thing is now the question that was asked to Professor Spall before he kind of launches into that. He's dealing with, and I can stop sharing that because I'm gonna come back to clicking on the wrong thing. We'll come back to that later. People can go ahead and check that out. Okay. Actually, I do want to get to this point. You know what I'm saying? So they're asking the question about, basically how did Christianity come about? Was it stolen from Kemet? And so Dr. Small is making his claims that it came about, due to the Kemetic priests and from Egypt. And again, you want to ask about primary sources, right? Right. Now, here we have Tacitus, who is among the most respected, if not the most respected Roman historians coming out of the 1st, 2nd, 3rd century, right? He writes one of his works entitled Annals in about 116 AD, and he actually talks about Christ and the beginning of the Christian movement. He tells us, what's been reported to him. And when he talks about, I'm not going to read the whole quote, but he talks about how, actually, I'll go ahead and read a part of it. Actually, I'll just read it. It says, so Christus, from whom the name had its origin, suffered the extreme penalty, referring to the crucifixion. People can look up the context of how that term extreme penalty is used. During the reign of Tiberius at the hands of one of our procurators, Pontius Pilate. So already we got Christ mentioned and Pontius Pilate mentioned. Again, this is written in 116 AD. Just to point that out. And a most mischievous superstition, thus checked for the moment, again broke out, not only in Judea, the first source of the evil, but even in Rome, where all things hideous and shameful from every part of the world find their center and become popular. Accordingly, an arrest was made, first of all who pleaded guilty, and then upon their information, an immense multitude was convicted, not so much of the crime of firing the city as of hatred against mankind. All right, so that's Tacitus writing in 116 AD, and he's referring to Nero, who burned down the city in 64 AD. That's the incident that he's describing, and Nero ends up blaming the Christians, right? That's what Tacitus is talking about. Now, my whole point is, Professor Smalls is saying that, okay, well, you've got these Kemetic priests who, basically frame Christianity, and immediately he jumps to the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. But obviously, we already have a Christian movement, that Tacitus describes, saying that comes out of Judea, and he's describing events that took place in 64 AD. You know what I'm saying? So your boy, Professor Smalls is clearly about 300 years late in terms of his assessment, in terms of how Christianity began. Right. Absolutely. So that's one thing. With that being said, I can take this off for now. With that being said, to Zion Lex's question, Brother Garfield, which was supposed to be, I guess it will be the upcoming debate, is putting forth his theory as to how Christianity came about. And one of the things that he claims is that Jabari is mistaken that Christianity comes out of Kemet because, those who framed Christianity, the original Christians, basically, they didn't know what they call the Medu Neter, which is, the language of, the ancient Egyptians. You know what I'm saying? Now, granted, there's different dialects in ancient Egypt, so we need to be clear about that. You know what I'm saying? But most of the time they don't mention like the Demotic or the Coptic. But let's just talk about the what we might call hieroglyph.
Well, the Coptic comes much later.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? Right. You know what I'm saying? So, these are different phases, but, we'll go over there. I'll go back to that in a minute. But so the thing is, when it comes to, Garfield's assessment that they would need to know the Medu Neter in order to glean from, the story of Horus and Osiris and all these kind of things, in order to even supposedly, as Jabari and people like, what's his name, Professor Small suggests, graft that into Christianity. I mean, they didn't, according to Garfield, they wouldn't have known the language. Now, the reality is they probably didn't. I don't know these dudes. I can't say for certain that they didn't speak some, some of it or whatever. I'm saying, but in all likelihood, they probably didn't. I'm saying, in all likelihood, particularly the original disciples, they were probably illiterate because most folks were. I'm saying, and later on, other disciples would have come along, written down their accounts, and so on and so forth. But I think, Garfield, although I wouldn't imagine he would put all of his eggs in that one basket of an argument. I think that he does have a point that could, be in a broader scheme. You know what I'm saying, go towards his point that it's just not likely that these dudes are borrowing from Kemet. It's very unlikely.
Right.
Absolutely. So I think that's what we're trying to get to. Yeah.
So yes, let's keep going. Let's keep going the video.
All right, cool.
There's more things that we need to address here.
A lot more. A lot more. But let me get
then there's a couple of other conferences. It takes them nearly.
You're not sharing the screen.
Yeah, my bad. I was so excited.
You jumped the gun?
I jumped the gun, man. Okay. There we go. And yep. Okay.
All right. Cool.
Okay. Is it good? Okay. Cool. All right.
Just in one conference or one sitting. You got the first Nicene conference, second Nicene conference, the conference of Trent, the second conference of Trent, then there's a couple of other conferences. Right. It takes them nearly 700 years to put this thing together. Mm-hmm. Okay. And even the Pope, not this one, the one before him,
yes,
was in Cameroon in 2009. And he told the Cameroonian people that 7 of the 10 architects of Christianity in that initial conference were Black.
All right.
And he put this packet. This is in news.
All right.
So he's saying that the Pope mentioned that the individuals that were at this council were the architects, right, of the Christian faith, and that they were black. Well, the black part is not the problem, to be honest with you. And what I wanted to share, actually, I'm going to need you to unshare your screen.
Yeah, my bad.
It's all good. Because actually, hold up, give me a second. I thought I had this all together. 1 second. All right, cool. So I happen to have that speech that the Pope made.
Oh, you found it
at Cameroon. Oh yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, I was looking for it. Okay, cool.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna be interesting. All right.
So, and I got the portion that he's referring to.
Interesting. Okay.
All right. So it says here, I came among you as a pastor. I came to confirm my brothers and sisters in the faith. This was the role that Christ entrusted to Peter at the Last Supper, and it is the role of Peter's successors. When Peter preached to the multitudes of Jerusalem at Pentecost, there were visitors from Africa present among them, and the witness of many great saints from this continent during the first centuries of Christianity. Saint Cyprian, Saint Monica, Saint Augustine, Saint Athanasius, to name but a few, guarantees a distinguished place for Africa in the annals of church history. And I'll stop there. So what date again was the Council of Nicaea?
Hey, 325 AD, brother.
Right. So as great as these men are, and we could learn so much from these men, could they have been the architects?
No, I mean, and women too. I see Saint Monica in there.
Oh, right, Saint Monica, right.
You know what I'm saying? So Saint Cyprian, I want to say he's coming along in the maybe late 2nd century. You know what I'm saying? Which is too late because I mean, again, if you're going to be an architect, you got to go back to the 1st century. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
So Saint Cyprian's too late, and yeah, Saint Augustine, he's after the Council of Nicaea. The Council of Nicaea had been done when Augustine came along. So I don't know where your boy was going with it.
So these people weren't. So a lot of these people. Well, Athanasius was there, right? He was at the council.
Sure, yeah, Athanasius,
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But Augustine would not. He comes with after Athanasius, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Augustine is going to be late 4th century, like in your
right. So I'm going to be charitable and say maybe he just misspoke when it comes to whether or not these individuals were there. But to say that they were the architects. Because let's grant and say all these people were at the council. There's no way for them to be the architects because we're talking late 2nd, early 3rd century, right?
Sure.
So there's no way that these individuals could be the architects.
Impossible.
Right. So
impossible. And actually to add that to that point, so when you're thinking about Cyprian, Monica, I'm going off memory, Augustine, Athanasius, when you read their works, they're appealing to what we would refer to as New Testament scripture.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Says, no, not even born yet. That's right.
That's right. You know what I'm saying? So they're appealing to the scriptures. I'm saying Athanasius would be Augustine, so on and so forth. So how could you be the architect? You know what I'm saying? If you're building off of the foundation that was laid for you by the New Testament authors, of which Peter would be one. Now that would be an architect, right? But that's not what he's referring to. He's referring to these African individuals. And he talks about so the Pope is talking about the visitors to to Jerusalem, if you will, when Peter was delivering the message, which is true. I mean, you think about Pentecost, right? You know what I'm saying? That's definitely the case. You know what I'm saying? Where you have in Acts chapter 2, it says that there were men from all over the world. I think it's how it's phrased. And it talks about the Pentecost where they're praying in the spirit. And it gets loud, and people come to try to find out what's going on. And it says there's people from everywhere, and it lists Egypt, or Kemet, whatever. It lists individuals from Libya who are understanding this spiritual language in their mother tongue.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Thus suggesting that whoever these individuals were from these different places weren't just from there geographically, but they were indigenous to those places. Right. So of course you do have these visitors who are there, but nevertheless, that doesn't make them architects either, right? Because they're coming to hear a dude preach about it who was already in the game.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So again, I mean, his whole point is crazy. And I mean, now, if I'm not mistaken, was this the clip where he said that there were these Kemetic priests? Is that right?
I think so. I'm not sure.
I might have to run it back.
It back.
You know what I'm saying? Because if it wasn't here, he also let me play it right quick. Let me play it. I'll take his back right quick. And because I want to make sure I quote him right.
Yeah, because they will call us on that.
right. I want to make sure I get it right.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And even the Pope, and these are the people that Constantine.
Language?
Yeah, that's the part. Yeah,
to some degree.
Okay.
The people who are creating Christianity is not the Romans.
Okay.
They're under the Roman domination. The people who created Christianity is Kemetic people.
That's right.
All right.
Okay.
These are the priests who live in Kemet.
Mm-hmm.
These are the people who live in what we call the Middle East.
Right. He said these are the priests that live in Kemet.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Keep going though. I want to see if he actually changes his thought because he might not be referring to them. So
okay, fair enough.
And these are the people that Constantine bring to the Nicaean conference. And remember, they don't do this in one conference or one sitting. You got the first Nicaean conference, second Nicaean conference, the conference of Trent, the second conference of Trent, then there's a couple of other conferences. Right. It takes them nearly 700 years to put this thing together. Okay. And even the Pope, not this one, the one before him, was in Cameroon in 2009. And he told the Cameroonian people that 7 of the 10 architects of Christianity in that initial conference were Black.
Yeah, he is making a reference to that.
This is in Newsday.
So he's saying that those church fathers were Kemetic priests.
And to be fair, he's also extending it out to, I guess, the Council of Trent and these other councils that he named, that these are Kemetic priests out here. So let's, even if we grant him that latitude, you know, he's got to substantiate that these were Kemetic priests.
Right.
Like, certainly, what's his name? The Pope didn't say that. You know what I'm saying? And to say that they were Black, I mean, okay, that doesn't make them Kemetic priests. I mean, Cyprian, for example, was from Carthage, North Africa, right? So, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was of Berber descent. You know, so I mean, again, I don't see how, like you can't make the logical leap and say, okay, these people were from Africa, therefore they're Kemetic priests. Right. You've got to give some sort of primary source evidence. So you got to go again to these sources. You got to show me something in these sources that indicate that Athanasius, Augustine, and so forth, that these individuals were Kemetic priests. You got to show me that. Right. You can't just claim it. You know what I'm saying? You know, so again, they're too late to be architects because all of these individuals are coming along later on in the game. Right. You know what I'm saying? And even if you want to say that they're, actually, I don't even know where you would want to go with it, but nevertheless, you can't make them Kemetic priests just because they're Black. I mean, come on, man. You know,
That's a variation of the genetic fallacy, right?
Interesting.
So like, well, they're from this region, therefore they have to be Kemetic priests. Like, no, they don't have to be. In fact, they're not. You know, so
they don't exactly. So, you know, perfect example. Tertullian from Carthage, North Africa. He's widely regarded as the father of Latin theology because he wrote most, if not all, of his works in Latin. Now, was he a white guy running around in North Africa? No, probably not. I mean, you know, the understanding is that he's probably a Berber. You know what I'm saying? But referring to him as the Latin father, that doesn't make him Latin. You know what I'm saying? Right. It doesn't make it. You know what I mean? So it's, you know, you got to be more specific. You got to be more nuanced. You know
Absolutely.
So yeah. All right, cool. You want to keep
it going. Keep going.
Okay. All right. Let me get back to that. Okay. Bars.
Whatever magazine. But we notice who do studies. There's even a photograph of that grouping with Constantine. Right. And you can clearly see the Black there. So
pause.
These men obviously wrote.
I'm not trying to be petty, but there's no photographs.
Yeah, right. I was wondering if he's gonna get him on that. You know,
there were paintings, I'm sure, right? But there were, you know, and paintings, of course, have, you know, depending on the intent of the artist. I don't know if he was trying to do a historical recording or was he just expressing what he thought it might have looked like. So we have to know exactly which painting or drawing he's speaking of in order for us to glean the intent of the artist. Because he could have just been freestyling for all we know.
For all we know.
Or was he kind of like a court reporter? Was he in there and he was sketching? Because that'd be different, right? That would have more historical validity.
Sure.
But he doesn't tell us exactly what he means by photograph, right? So
right. And actually, just to just to clarify the point, like for me, the issue is not saying that Africans, people of African descent, or however you want to frame it, were present at these councils or had an impact. I don't have a problem with that at all. I mean, I teach it myself. Right. Yes, Augustine was from North Africa. He appears to have been from an indigenous tribe. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. You know what I mean? There's no problem with that. Same thing with Athanasius. I think a case can be made there. So that's not a problem. The issue is when you're taking this extra that's unsubstantiated about them being Kemetic priests, you know what I'm saying, and kind of giving them roles that go beyond that overstep what the historical evidence would suggest. That's where it becomes a problem. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
All right. We keep rolling?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Spoke Medionesia.
Yes.
They are under Roman domination.
My bad. That's important. I want to step back for a second. There we go. I'm rewind it for a second. That's an important point. Oh, there we go.
Because we're black. And he put this on record. This is in Newsday magazine, about a magazine. But we notice who do studies. There's even a photograph of that grouping with Constantine. Right. And you can clearly see the black there. Right. So these men obviously wrote and spoke Medionesia.
Yes.
Whoa.
They're under Roman domination. The Nile Valley is under Roman military domination.
That's right.
The Hebrew Israelite land is under Roman.
Okay, I'm stopping right there. So he said these men obviously wrote and spoke the Medionesia. Okay, now again, the Medionesia is referring to ancient Kemetic script. You know what I'm saying they're written language, right? Well, actually, not just written, because he's saying they wrote and spoke it.
Right.
Obviously, this is the case. Now, to me, I don't see why this is obvious at all. Like, what makes that obvious?
Well, if what he's saying is correct, if these gentlemen, right, Athanasius and Augustine, if they were Kemetic priests, then it would be obvious that they wrote and spoke the Medionesia, because that was the script of the priestly class of Kemet.
Okay.
So if they were Kemetic priests, then yes, then that would be reasonable to surmise.
Fair. That's I hadn't thought about that. So here's the thing. So that means that his claim about them writing and speaking the Medionesia is predicated on a false claim about their priesthood in the Kemetic order. Exactly. So now you got one falsehood piggybacking on another,
right? And
one huge assumption,
right?
Assumption, right? Piggybacking on another. Because the thing of it is, so for example, Bishop Demetrius, I'm saying, who was one of the heads of the Alexandrian Catechetical School. People can look him up. Bishop Demetrius appears to have been illiterate. I'm saying he comes from a rural part. I'm saying outside of the Alexandrian, province or whatever. I'm saying he's come from a rural area where they were less likely to have been literate. I'm saying, and he's one of the guys that was basically one of the pioneers, if you will, or I'll say one of the major figures of the early Alexandrian catechetical school in the early church, rather. You know what I'm saying? So you have a guy who's illiterate. You also have Abba Anthony, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was illiterate. Again, I mentioned Tertullian. He's writing in Latin. You know what I'm saying? So it's not this. You can't say just that it's obvious unless you assume, unless you accept rather his claim about the Kemetic priesthood. There's no reason to assume that these guys spoke the Medionesia. Right. So I think once you undercut the that false claim, then there's nowhere else to go.
MJ Jackson says the Council of Trent was between 1545 and 1563. The brother's just talking.
Yeah, right. If you snuck a Kemetic priest in there, man, you're doing something. You know, you're really doing something.
You know what I mean? Breaking news. I'm telling you.
Breaking news, man. It's never been heard before. You know what I'm saying? And I would love to. I would challenge anybody watching this. I'm saying whether maybe it's one of these brothers. I don't know. Please correct me. You're saying please provide me a source.
Yep.
A primary, secondary, even whatever, give me a primary source that would give some credence to this notion that you have these Medionesia speaking, Medionesia writing, Kemetic priests, foundational, in the these councils and architects, if you will, of Christianity. I would love to see it. Love to see it. All right.
Military domination. The Libyan land is under Roman military domination in North Africa, or the Moorish land. And so these people are responding to a military occupation by the most powerful military force on earth. Okay. When they go to Nicaea. Some disagree with what Constantine wants to create. Yes. And they're led, as we know in history, by the brother called Arius. Mm-hmm. And many of them are killed, and he's killed later, but not before establishing what ends up becoming the Coptic Church in Alexandria and Kemet. But these are Kemet.
Stop.
Right.
Yeah. Unshare your screen.
Yes, sir.
All right. So he's saying that Arius is the one that starts the Coptic Church, right? Okay. So this is the slide I wanted to share earlier. This is from the book 2,000 Years of Coptic Christianity. It says Eusebius of Caesarea, the author of the ecclesiastical history in the 4th century, states that Saint Mark came to Egypt in the 1st or 3rd year of the reign of Emperor Claudius, i.e. AD 41 or 43, right? That's the date that he says that Saint Mark comes to begin the Coptic Church. Now, Arius shows up around 256 to 336. Mm-hmm. So how does Arius begin the Coptic Church?
I have no idea, bro. I don't know, bro.
We're talking centuries after St. Mark, right?
Right.
All right. Again, maybe he has his dates jumbled up. You know, it can happen to the best of us. You know, maybe that's what's happening. But I just want to clarify that Arius did not begin the Coptic Church.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Matter of fact, we often talk about a brother, in Christ, Thomas Oden, who's done a lot of great work. Generally refer to him in regard to how Africa shaped the Christian mind. You know what I'm saying? It's a great book. You know, it talks about African influence, in the early church. But he also has other works as well, one of which I just posted in the chat. I just posted a link to it. You know what I'm saying? You can purchase, called The African Memory of Mark. And in The African Memory of Mark, basically, you can even kind of hear it in the title, what it's about. But basically, it's dealing with the oral history from the Coptic Church concerning how Mark started the Coptic Church. I'm saying, as you said, in the 1st century. I'm saying, so that's what the whole book is about. So I just posted that in the chat. I'm also going to post. I've got another link here to a website called earlyafricanchristianity.com. And people just want to take a quick glance at it and maybe kind of get an initial feel for what I'm saying. There's articles and material on there as well. You know what I'm saying? So I just posted those in the chat. People can check those things out. But again, the African Memory of Mark, the oral history of the Coptic Church is that Mark founded it in the 1st century. You know what I'm saying? And he was martyred, as a matter of fact. There's a shoot, I wonder if I have it on this slide. Right? Well, I probably don't have it on this PowerPoint, but there's actually a cathedral that stands today. You know what I'm saying? In Alexandria, Egypt, which is supposed to have been built on the spot where Mark was martyred in Alexandria, Egypt. As the oral history goes, he was dragged through the streets of Alexandria, Egypt, and that's how he died. And they built in monument to him. They eventually built a cathedral there, and it's there today, right? So again, that's going back to the 1st century. So there's no way in the world, I'm saying, that you've got your boy Arius being the founder of the Coptic Church. That's obviously false. That's obviously false. You know. So there was something else I wanted to say. I might actually get to this later. Let me see here. Yeah, I'm actually going to wait on that because he's about to say something in a second, and I'm going to go in on it in a minute. So cool. Actually, I'm going to take this off the screen. We'll go back to it. But again, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. This is just going back to the sources for what they had to say. You know what I'm saying? This is basic stuff here.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Shout out to brother Brian. What up?
What up? What up?
And we got this other individual. Ham Sunshine.
Ham Sunshine.
What up, Ham? What up? All right, so
okay,
let's go.
Let me push it back a couple seconds. I think we missed a couple. Man, we're just 5.5 minutes in, man.
I know. This is crazy.
It's
crazy.
All right, here we go. I think it's probably about there.
When they go to Nicaea, some disagree with what Constantine wants to create.
Yes.
And they're led, as we know in history, by the brother called Arius. Mm-hmm. And many of them are killed, and he's killed later, but not before establishing what ends up becoming the Coptic church in Alexandria and Kemet. But these are Kemetian people who are writing the Christian doctrine under the dominance of the Roman polity and military.
Stop.
That's the first thing we need to have.
Stop. please unshare your.
Got you.
All right. So the claim is that these things are written under the military might of the Roman Empire, right? That's what he's saying. Okay. So give me a minute.
Again, while you report sources, that's what I want to see. Here we go.
All right. So this is from Jennifer M. Dines, the Septuagint. It says, according to the legend, 72 Jewish scholars were asked by Ptolemy II Philadelphus, the Greek king of Egypt, to translate the Torah from biblical Hebrew to Greek for inclusion in the Library of Alexandria. Now, it says, according to the legend, right?
Okay.
It's stating that it's legend. So we have to corroborate this claim. It's just saying here in this book that it's a legend, right? So in J.A.L. Lee's A Lexical Study of the Septuagint Version of the Pentateuch, this book claims that the 3rd century BCE is supported for the Torah translation by a number of factors, including its Greek being representative of early Koine Greek, citations beginning as early as the 2nd century BCE, and early manuscripts datable to 2nd century. So based on their research, it corroborates the legend that happened during this time, right? But who's leading at this time? I'm glad you asked. Because it says here by Gay Robbins, The Art of Ancient Egypt, right, from Harvard University, it says the Ptolemaic kingdom was founded in 305 BC by Ptolemy I Soter, a Theodosius, originally from Macedon in northern Greece, who declared himself Pharaoh of Egypt and created a powerful Macedonian Greek dynasty that ruled in areas stretching from southern Syria to Cyrene and south to Nubia. Scholars argued that the kingdom was founded in 304 BC because of different use of calendars. Ptolemy crowned himself in 304 BC on the ancient Egyptian calendar. So it was Greeks. It was the Greek dynasty that was in charge while they were writing, while the Jewish people who lived in Alexandria were writing the Hebrew scriptures in the Koine Greek in the 3rd century.
Right.
So
they're just about at that point right there.
Yeah.
And actually later on, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but he mentions how you do have aspects of Christian theology coming out of the Old Testament, citations of David, Solomon, and so forth, and we just saw that those, writings are being translated, during the Greek time. So that just kind of kills this whole point right there. You know what I'm saying? So you put those two propositions together. Anyway, cool. Let's let's push forward, bro. It's some doozies in here, man. Doozies in here. We're just getting started.
That's right.
All right.
Understanding of Rome has nothing in its history to show that it could produce such a document.
That's right.
So you have to have some historical modeling that you could lean on to produce such a doctrine. Right. You can find those modeling in ancient Kemet. We can go back to the pyramid text in the tomb of Unas, where God, who they're calling Amun, says, I created myself out of myself. I cause existence to exist so that existing might exist. And when I realized I was in the
Pause.
my art was at my side.
Actually, just rewind that part. Rewind that part.
Okay. All right.
I want everybody to really listen to this particular origin story. Please.
Okay. All right.
Please listen to this.
It's hurting me right here, man. Go ahead.
Produce such a doctrine. You can find those modeling in ancient Kemet. We can go back to the pyramid text in the tomb of Unas, where God, who they're calling Amun, says, I created myself out of myself. I caused existence to exist so that existing might exist. And when I realized I was in existence, art was at my side. Truth, justice, righteousness. Listen,
we're gonna be like a reggae DJ. I need you to pull up, rewind one more time. I want people to really listen to this, man.
This is crazy.
Okay, this is a creation story of a god in Egypt. Listen, all right? Go ahead, one more time.
In ancient Kemet, we can go back to the pyramid text in the tomb of Unas, where God, who they're calling Amun, says, I created myself out of myself. I caused existence to exist so that existing might exist. And when I realized I was in existence, my art was at my side. Truth, justice, righteousness, harmony, balance, and reciprocity, which is the feminine aspect of the divine. That's right. And then he says he created Shu, Tef, Nut, Gav, Nut, then Asar and Aset. You know, you call them Adam and Eve in the Kemetic tradition.
Pause.
And he says, having created everything, my heart.
Now, remember, this is a conversation about how Christianity plagiarized and ripped off, right, from Kemet. So what he's describing right now is what we call a theogony, okay? A theogony is the origin story of a deity. Is there a theogony in Genesis chapter 1?
No, sir.
There isn't any.
Nope.
God's there already. There is no beginning. He's there.
He's there.
But we're ripping them off, though.
Oh, we can even go further than that.
Wait.
Oh, okay.
So, right? So this dude, this particular guy, creates himself from himself. Is that reasonable?
No.
Because in order for him to make himself from himself, there had to be stuff there. So he's a contingent being because he made himself from stuff that was already there.
Right.
But the stuff that was already there was there before him.
Right.
So the question is, well, where did that stuff come from? Because we understand that he comes from the stuff of the material world, right? From the water, from the mountain of Nun, right? That rises from the water, right?
That's right.
Where does the mountain come from? Where does the water come from? So how is this a ripoff again? I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what that word is. Because you're right. Because you have the Nun, which is like this stuff,
the primordial mound,
right? And then out that grows, like it's
right,
like a mountain of earth or whatever. And then you have a tomb. Yeah, I mean, so it's just there's different versions of it. So the question would become like, which one is even appealing to? But I mean, to your point though. You know what I mean? And actually, shout out to MJ Jackson, man, on in regard to he hit me up with Michael Oswald's book. You know, and I don't know why I can't think of the title right now. Probably because it's like mad late. You know what I'm saying? I'm having a super brain freeze. But Jackson, if you can put that in the chat. But Michael Oswald has a book that's wonderful. You know what I'm saying? And breaking down these kinds of differences between the biblical narrative and things like what Dr. Smalls is describing. But to your point, I mean, he obviously would have come from stuff that already existed, which is completely, different from God of the Hebrew scriptures. I'm saying, Yahweh, who, if we're going to use philosophical terms, has aseity, means he depended upon nothing to exist other than himself. I'm saying he's self-existent. I'm saying, which actually brings me to another point, because first of all, you're right. It's super illogical. You know what I'm saying? And then let me clarify. When I'm talking about illogical in this context, I'm not just talking about like something that doesn't make sense. I'm talking about in the more formal sense, I'm saying philosophically speaking, where we're dealing with metaphysics, I'm saying, and understanding causation. Okay. And critical thinking, there's rules, if you will. I'm saying, and many people refer to those rules as
Is this the book you was talking about?
Yeah, the Bible Among the Myths. Thank you.
That's a dope book. I got that book too.
Great book. Great book. Shout out to
great book.
MJ. Hit me off.
Yes, sir.
And also check out MJ Jackson's YouTube channel as well, y'all. He has some dope stuff. Great book reviews. He just dropped a joint about a week and a half ago. It was dope as well. You know what I'm saying? A dope video. So check him out. But certainly, when we're talking about the rules of logic, I mean, the notion that so you can say that X created Y. Right, that makes sense, but to say that X created X is logically fallacious. I'm saying because in order to create something, you've got to first exist in order to bring anything into existence.
Right.
I'm saying now, even if I wanted to be fair, I really thought this through. I kind of lost. I think I lost a few brain cells trying. But even if I wanted to be fair, right, and say, okay, let's say that what it means is that he brought himself from some spiritual form of existence into the material world. Okay. And that's what he meant by I brought myself into existence. Now, I think that's being very charitable. But even if that's true, the following statement, it might be worse than the first. Because he said, I cause existence to exist. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, that's crazy to me. That's crazy. I cause existence to exist. How could you cause existence to exist? I'm saying if there's stuff that exists before you, you know what I'm saying? That's logically ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so in other words, and I like the word you use. I'm glad you brought that out. It's a theogony. I'm saying it's his origin story. It's like how Batman has a backstory, or the Joker just came out. Let's use that example. It's like the Joker movie. I'm saying it's his backstory, and his backstory starts out with a logical. It was something that's completely logically incoherent. That's the beginning of his backstory. So it can't help but get worse from there, man. I mean, it started off on the wrong foot.
Right, because now you're building on a faulty foundation, right? Because then when you're talking about knowledge claims, or if you're talking about objective morality, where do you anchor these things in? These contingent beings that at one point never existed, that all of a sudden they just happen to exist because they felt like existing, which is kind of weird because in order to have feelings, you have to already existed. So how do you anchor knowledge? How do you anchor morality? You can't.
You can't.
Not with something that was once not there and now is.
Now that's an interesting point. We could rock out on that further. I'm gonna leave it alone, but I'm tempted to go there because you're absolutely right. I'm saying if you have a contingent being, right, then shout out to my man Vocab. Vocab's being funny. He said, "What about X created the growth and a Y?" Shout out to my Vocab. You know what I'm saying? But to your point, I'll just put it simply. People can actually, matter of fact, I'll put the link in the chat. I'll find it in a second. But I got a whole video from one of my podcast episodes where I'm dealing with the Kemetic moral framework and what I see as shortcomings. And actually, this is a great point that if you have a contingent being, then you can't account for moral facts,
right?
And objective moral facts, I should say. You can't account for objective moral facts with a contingent being. And
that's actually a little preview of what I'm going to do for the Cyber City conference. Shout out to Vocab Malone. Okay. So I'm dealing with that in my presentation. That's what I'm going to say about my presentation when it comes to that. Right. But yeah, you could expect more of that at the Cyber City conference.
Okay, well, I'll leave it there then. But that's an excellent point, though. That's an excellent point. So so you're dealing with now. Actually, I will just say this one more thing.
Sure.
That, and people can check this out. Is that when you think about and I'm not even talking about just the Christian, worldview. I'm just talking about philosophy in general. You know what I'm saying? God is understood to be the maximally great being.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The maximally great being. The being that exists above which no greater being could exist.
Right.
And so when philosophers kind of wrestle about like what that being would have to be like, they look at attributes that it would have to have in order to be maximally great.
Right.
Now, the idea, if you've got two beings, I'm saying, theoretically, where one is contingent, meaning that it at some point did not exist or could not exist,
or it needs stuff to exist.
Oh, right. Yeah, sure. Exactly. So its existence cannot be explained within itself. It needs something else to account for its existence. That's going to be, by definition, a lesser being than a being who depends on nothing for its existence other than its own self. And
that's why atheists sound silly when they try to refer to our God as the flying spaghetti monster. I'm like, but he's made of spaghetti. Like, how does that even?
I'm really trying to hold back here, but actually, like what you said was interesting. Is very now. Oh man, I'm trying to hold back, but I'll put it this way.
Yeah, do it.
About the argument from contingency. All right, there's actually an argument for God's existence called the Leibnizian cosmological argument, right? And in basic terms, it's everything that exists has an explanation for its existence. Okay, that's step one. Step two, the universe exists, right?
Therefore,
step three, therefore, the universe has an explanation. I'm sorry, wait, let me back up. I'm sorry. Everything that exists has an explanation for its existence. That's step one. Step two, if the universe has an explanation for its existence, that explanation is God. That's step two. Step three, the universe exists. And then it leads to the conclusion, step four, therefore, the explanation for the universe is God. Right. That's that's one formulation of the Leibnizian cosmological argument. Okay, or sometimes they call it the argument from contingency. I'm gonna make this real quick.
Now, does any of that sound like what Professor Smalls just said?
That's the point. That's the point. So, because that argument points to a being that does not. The idea of being contingent is that you rely upon something outside yourself to exist. You know what I'm saying, but what we come to, and I'm not even going to go further. I would actually recommend Josh Rasmussen's work on the argument from contingency, where he basically establishes that whatever the foundation of reality is, it must be a being that relies upon nothing else outside of itself to exist. You know what I'm saying, it has to be a necessary being, a non-contingent being. So if, as Dr. Smalls described, that their tomb, you know what I'm saying, is a contingent being, he does not fit the description of the kind of being that can be the foundation of all reality. Therefore, he can't be the maximally great being because he's lesser in terms of capability, in terms of accounting for reality. And so that rules out a tomb as being a legitimate candidate for who might be the ultimate reality.
And also, since we know that, do we see any of that being transferred over to Yahweh, the God of the Bible?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to hold back here because but once you said that, I got like a lot of stuff. I'm at as soon as we get offline, I'm gonna have to write a whole article about it. Just figuring out a lot of stuff. But it's an excellent point because so Yahweh does fit the description of the kind of being that could be the foundation for reality. Right. Yahweh. No,
I'm saying because of that, does this Egyptian theogony did the Hebrew writers borrow from this theogony?
Oh no, absolutely.
Right. It's clear that that's not right, which defeats the whole purpose of them even making this claim. It's like it's clear that it's not even similar here, at all. Right. So
there's this clear fundamental difference because, and we can talk about the law of identity. Right. Two things. If there's something true about A that's not true about B, then what we know is that A and B are not the same. That's the basic rendering of the law of identity. Okay. Right. So if it's true that, as the Professor Smalls describes, that this tomb is contingent, that's not true about Yahweh of Scripture. So therefore, we know that it can't be the same being. I'm saying that's for sure. So then the question becomes like, if we supposedly copied off of them, why didn't we copy like another contingent being? Like how do as you point out, there is no in the beginning. It doesn't say in the beginning God created himself, or in the beginning, he made out of the void or whatever. None of that. Right. You know what I'm saying? Totally different kind of thing. Man, there's a lot. Man, that's I'm gonna be up all night thinking about that. There's a couple arguments you can make there. So
sure.
Very fascinating. All right, man. I'm trying to be back on task here, man. I think you just gave me like 3 articles, maybe a couple more videos just now.
You're welcome. Yeah,
thank you. All right, so you want to push?
Yeah, keep playing,
bro. We're like 6.5 minutes.
I know, man. It's just chock full of stuff here.
It's crazy. All right, here we go.
I, meaning the divine, expanded into all of them. Mm-hmm. This means God is in everything as the finite assets of it. That's what the argument was between what Constantine.
All right, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to pause it and I'm going to back it up because that was important right there.
Right.
And I'm giving y'all forewarning that I'm going to play a little bit and pause it again because there's a whole bunch in here. But notice what he said. He described that, you have Atum creating himself, so forth. He says that Atum expanded into everything.
Right.
Into everything. Now, two words we want to compare here is pantheism and panentheism.
Right.
Pantheism and panentheism.
Right.
Pantheism, pan is is a prefix, it means all. And then theism refers to, the state of godness or whatever. So everything is God under pantheism. Everything is God altogether. That's pantheism. Panentheism is where like every God is in everything, in the same sense that like our soul is in our body, if you will. You know what I'm saying? It's like God occupies the physical realm and our reality in the same sense that our soul occupies our body. That's panentheism. Now, I just want to point that out right quick, because what you're going to see is that Professor Smalls goes back and forth between describing their ultimate reality from a pantheistic standpoint and a panentheistic standpoint. He's real. I'm trying not to be like like inflammatory, but I just can't find a better way to put it. But
he tries to create a balance between those two worldviews.
Right, and they're very distinct.
Right,
very distinct. So I just want to kind of point that out. And so, like I already warned you, I'm gonna be stopping in a second. But let me go ahead and play it right quick, because we definitely got to rock out on this next point. Let me back it up, and here we go.
Then he says, having created everything my heart desired, I, meaning the divine, expanded into all of them. Mm-hmm. This means God is in everything as the finite assets of it. That's what the argument was between what Constantine wanted. He wanted God to emanate as a one element, as this man. Mm-hmm. And the Arians say, no, God is in all of us. All of us. And in everything.
All right, stop.
In the Christian.
Stop.
Oh, man.
Stop.
Man.
Stop. Let me find that. Yeah, yeah.
Saying is wow, man. I mean, so again, I know you. I'm gonna let you rock out. I just want to frame.
Nah, do your thing. I'm looking for my slide right now. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So basically, so what he just said. Now, first of all, I want to take notice of. So the operative opponents at the Council of Nicaea, according to Professor Smalls, is Constantine versus Arius. And he's saying that Constantine wanted it to be the case that basically God is like localized as one entity. One emanation, I think is the way he might have put it. Whereas Arius is coming from the perspective that you have God in everything. He's saying that was the debate at the Council of Nicaea, and it was those two representatives. Now, I'm gonna let you rock out. I'm definitely got some stuff on it, but I just want to point out what's interesting is that if you understand the history of the Council of Nicaea, you actually have to go back to before 325 AD, wherein you have the Alexandrian Council. Right. Okay. Where you have Bishop Alexander in contention with Arius, and I'm sure you're going to describe what the actual beef was about. But what's interesting is that before Constantine is even involved in this, thing, what I'm saying, the beef was between Alexander and Arius, and both of those parties were present at the Council of Nicaea. So he's got the parties all wrong. I'm saying in terms of who was really spearheading, these different sides of the debate that took place. But I'll let you rock out on it. And
Well, first of all, right. Well, let me share my screen. So. I think another thing that people forget, it wasn't just about Arius and Athanasius going head to head. Like there was other stuff being talked about at this council.
Sure.
And we know that because there's a list, I think it's at 17 canons of the stuff that they agreed on during that council. Right. So there was a litany of things that they had to talk about. The Arian controversy is, of course, the most written about,
Sure.
So here, The Search for the Christian Doctrine of God, the Arian Controversy by R.P.C. Hansen. It says, Arius is notable primarily because of his role in the Arian controversy, a great 4th century theological conflict that led to the calling of the first ecumenical council of the church. This controversy centered upon the nature of the Son of God and his precise relationship to God the Father. Before the Council of Nicaea, the Christian world knew several competing Christological ideas. Church authorities condemned some of these ideas, but did not put forth a uniform formula. The Nicene formula was rapidly concluded solution to the general Christological debate. That's what this was about.
That's what this is about. As a matter of fact, if I can share my screen right quick.
Yes, sir. Please do.
All right. So you don't have to take our word for it. Like the Council of Nicaea doesn't have to be as mysterious as it is. Like there's all sorts of resources, you know what I'm saying, where you can look at the primary sources and know exactly what the contention was. As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and share this screen right quick. This is a quotation. This is Arius in his own words, and I have the link at the top of the screen. I'll put it. As a matter of fact, I'll put it in the live chat as soon as I'm finished reading this right here.
You're gonna have to make that a little bigger.
Okay, let me see how I can do that.
Because the link is bigger than the actual quote.
Yeah. yeah. Actually, I meant to have that as like a placeholder, and I was gonna replace it with a title later on, but I just forgot. Oh shoot! Yeah, I didn't mean to do that. Hold up. Let me give me 1 second here.
Do your thing. So shout out to Vocab Malone. We're about to take off on that Cyber City conference, March 20th and 21st, right? Yeah. So you're gonna have me, Adam Coleman. You're gonna have SOC, Nefertiti, you know, the usual suspects lined up, giving you that apologetic work that you so much need and desire. So
yes, sir.
All right.
So this right here is so this is a letter from Arius. Like there's still extant. Wow. Still, you know, we have the letter from Arius.
Wow.
Communicating to Eusebius following the Council of Nicaea, and he's talking about the gripe that he has. He actually tells you what he's upset about. This is Arius. I'm going to read a portion of it here because he's just basically doing some greetings and whatnot. And he says, you know, because the bishop, referring to Alexander, and that parentheses, I didn't put that in there. The translators did to indicate who he was talking about. So because the bishop, Alexander, is severely ravaging and persecuting us and moving against us with every evil. Thus he drives us out of every city like godless men, since we will not agree with his public statements that there was always God, always a son. As soon as the Father, so soon the Son existed. With the Father coexists the Son, unbegotten, ever begotten, begotten without beginning. God neither precedes the Son in aspect or in a moment of time. Always a God, always a Son, the Son of being from God himself. So he tells you exactly what he's upset about. He tells you what his contention is. He disagrees with Bishop Alexander with respect to what we understand to be Orthodox doctrine, with Jesus occupying the same status of divinity as God the Father. Arius tells you that. You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, we also have, now again, like I said, the real beef was between Bishop Alexander and Arius. I'm saying prior to the Council of Nicaea, we actually have a letter from Arius to Bishop Alexander. And he's telling you exactly what he's upset about. As a matter of fact, I forgot to put it in red. Let me go put it in red right quick. Oh, yeah, here we go. I'm right here at the end. He's describing what is his beef. You know what I'm saying with Alexander, and he's telling you right here. He says he's talking about Jesus. He's disagreeing with Alexander. He's saying because he, meaning Jesus, is not eternal or co-eternal or co-unoriginate with the Father, nor has he his being together with the Father, as some speak of relations, introducing two ingenerate beginnings. Excuse me. But God is before all things as being monad, meaning one, and beginning of all. So this is Arius writing to Alexander of Alexandria, telling him exactly what he believes. And this is the point of contention that they're going to carry into the Council of Nicaea, right? And now I'm going to put these again. I have the link at the top. I'll go ahead and put that in the chat where you can read it for yourself. Yep. But again, like I said before, I've got it right here. This is the work of Athanasius. Athanasius in his writings. Now this is from the series that I put in the chat earlier. This is page 457 in the book with Athanasius. I'm just going to read it real quick. I'm saying, but Athanasius is describing what the contention was about at the Council of Nicaea. And he says here, this page 457, he says, Arius and those with him thought and professed thus, that God made the Son out of nothing and called him his Son. The Word of God is one of the creatures, and once he was not, and he is alterable, capable when it is his will of altering. I mean, that Jesus is changeable. He's not fixed in a sense. Accordingly, they were expelled from the church by the blessed Alexander. This is Athanasius talking. However, after his expulsion, when he was with Eusebius and his fellows, he drew up his heresy upon paper and imitating in the Thalia, no grave writer, but the Egyptian Sotates, in the dissolute tone of his meter, he writes at great length, for instance, as follows. And then he actually provides the letter part of what I just wrote. Excuse me, what I just quoted.
So the source is citing sources.
The source is citing sources. He's telling you. And he's actually quoting, Athanasius is telling you what the beef was. He's giving you exactly what he's contending against. And he's giving you Arius's letter. I'm saying, so like I'm not just making this up. This is what they wrote. I'm gonna just read one more thing real quick. This is on the next page, 458. Right. Again, I already put the link to this series in the chat, and I'm going to put the other links to these quotations in the chat as well. So basically, after reading, or recording Arius's letter, where Arius in his own words is describing his views. After quoting that, Athanasius says, "This is a part of what Arius and his fellows vomited from their heretical hearts."
Wow, shots.
I mean, fam, like he's telling you what the heresy is. He's telling you what it is. So when we're talking about, when James Small, Professor Small, is making claims about what the Council of Nicaea was about, we don't have to speculate. Like, you don't have to take my word for it. You know what I'm saying? You can go to the sources yourself. And you can actually
wrote about the actual situation. They gave you the play-by-play.
They gave you the play-by-play. The issue was, as BK Apologist described, that it was the divinity of Christ was in question. Now, again, I mean, to your point, there were also what you call minor decisions at the Council of Nicaea. Right. So, for example, they decided about who was going to let everybody know when the Passover was going to be celebrated that year. Right. That's an example. You know what I'm saying? Right. There's also a decision about the so-called lapsed. So, like, if you were in persecution times and you basically
deny Christ, you want to come back in, is that possible?
Right. Should you be let back into the assembly of the saints? And ultimately the answer was no. That's what the council decided, right? So these are like some of your minor decisions. But again, like you said, the main thing at issue, specifically with Arius, was this issue of the divinity of Christ. It had nothing to do with this notion that, Arius wanted it to be that God existed in everything, and Constantine wanted it to be, the divinity to be localized in one being. That's not what it was about. And we can look to the primary sources to see that that's not the case. That just bodies that right there. So yeah,
absolutely. Facts.
All right. I could have quoted some other sources too, but I'm just to let y'all know, if you wanted more bars, we could have went there. It's here. It's ready. So I'm gonna play this here, and I'm gonna put those links in the chat while this
no doubt
this here is playing. Okay, so I think let me back it up by about 15 seconds. All right.
I, meaning the divine, expanded into all of them. Mm-hmm. This means God is in everything as the finite assets of it. That's what the argument was between what Constantine wanted. He wanted God to emanate as a one element, as this man. Mm-hmm. And Arius and them say, no, God is in all of us. And in everything. And that's still the argument in the Christian world.
Yes.
But they needed a metaphor to base it on. So the metaphor is clearly the metaphor of a Sar and a Set, where a Set gives birth to Heru. Mm-hmm. As an immaculate conception process, because at this time Asar, the ancient gods of mythology, is killed by his brother Set.
Right.
So a lot of us know this already, so I'm not gonna take too much time, but we've now entered into zeitgeist land, right?
Yeah.
Right. The immaculate, like, we don't believe in the immaculate. That's not orthodox. We that's not in the Bible. The immaculate, that Mary was a sinless being while she carried Jesus. Like, that's not scripture at all. So even if that does come from Kemet, it's not in the Bible. So it's definitely not plagiarized, because it's not even in the Bible, and we don't agree with it. So
no, we don't. And I hadn't caught it before, but he said something like, and he was talking about the whole beef about Arius and Constantine. He said this is still debated today. I'm like, no, it's not.
No, we've never debated that was never the issue.
Right.
That was never the issue ever.
I don't know if that was I can't think of
that. The issue. Name me one council where they had to argue that.
Where were they arguing? Is God, and everything or whatever? Now, if I think you could, as far as from a pantheistic standpoint, what I'm saying. Now we could talk about what's referred to as like the immanence of God. Now I'm thinking about like Gregory of Nyssa, for example, where he's talking about, God is, like what does it mean? I'm saying for God to be immanent. I'm saying that's one thing. But when you're talking about is God expressed in all one thing, or is he? It's just nonsense, man. It's
right. Nonsense, The varying Christianities.
Yeah,
I don't think ever had that type of a debate. I could be wrong, but from the written accounts of all these councils, I don't think that was ever a contention.
I don't know where he's. It's funny because he said this is obviously a takeoff of authority.
And it's been continuous. Like we've been debating this. Really? Where?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, bro. Yeah. News to me and every theologian I'm aware of. That's wild, man. That's wild stuff, bro. This cat was tripping on that joint.
Mm.
And I'm not, and you know what? I'm not trying to be critical, but I'm wondering like what's going on with Zion Lexx at this point, because we've been talking a lot about Smalls, and he just Zion Lexx is kind of nodding like
Oh well, we'll see his response.
The thing that's
quite soon.
Maybe he was just trying to be cordial. Yeah, maybe he was just trying to be like, because this was supposed to be a peaceful moment, so maybe he just didn't want to get pushed back. I don't want to put any intentions on him, but I just wondered about that. I wonder.
Well, I mean, when he responds and what he shares, it does come from a very interesting place, which I'll address once he
all right.
He talks. Yeah.
All right.
And so, how does a dead man make a baby? So this is God, and it's symbolized in the carvings on the tombs and stuff of God coming down as a falcon, right? Or the woman coming down as a falcon and lighting upon the penis of God, and then goes back and becomes a set, the pregnant woman.
Pause.
So they took that.
Make a pause.
This is
pause.
Hey you. Again, right? This is like apologetics 101, really, right? So again, does this sound like the birth of Christ?
No.
Do we see birds flying on phalluses and dead men making babies and like what he's like? Where is this in the text?
And it is nowhere, man.
Because remember, this conversation is about how Christianity has borrowed heavily from ancient Kemet. Remember what this conversation is about. So
right.
They're bringing up points in where they see a direct correlation between the biblical text and the ancient text in Kemet.
Right.
All right. Remember, that's what they're trying to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, it's the claims are more than just weak. They're just not. They're not there. The connections are not there.
Oh, so here, let me throw this at you. I haven't really considered it. Right.
Yeah, go for it.
So with Mary, okay, the biblical text talks about how the Holy Spirit. I think it phrased like the Holy Spirit came upon Mary and then she was with child or something like that. Now I have heard individuals from the conscious community make reference to that as like some sort of sexual act between God and Mary. You know what I'm saying? And I just want to point out that when you think about how it's worded in the text, then the Holy Spirit came upon Mary and she was with child. It's worded the same way. The Holy Spirit's interaction with persons is worded the same way when you're dealing with passages like Elijah, for example, where it said the Spirit came upon him and he ran. I want to say to get ahead of Gehazi or something like that. He ran somewhere and was able to get there in some supernatural amount of time. You know what I'm saying? The Spirit came upon him. Samson, the Spirit would come upon him, and he would be, strengthened to, fight against the Philistines. You know what I'm saying? So all throughout the Old Testament, it's referring to the Holy Spirit coming upon people. You know what I'm saying, basically empowering them. You know what I'm saying, where you have the Holy Spirit interacting with them in an empowering sort of way to accomplish something supernatural. So when it's used when that phraseology is used in reference to Mary, there's no good reason to take that as being a sexual act, given the fact that you have this use of that phrase umpteen however many times, I'm saying clearly describing something non-sexual that is specifically had to do with an empowerment to accomplish something supernatural. So,
but again, remember earlier we talked about how they're stacking on a faulty foundation. They already believe in their theogony that these are contingent beings.
Right.
So it makes sense in their worldview for a god to impregnate someone.
True. Yeah, sure.
It makes perfect sense in their paradigm.
Right.
But the fact that they're trying to say that we are copying that paradigm, well, where's the connections?
Right. You
know?
Absolutely.
All right, let's keep it going. Right.
Process, not understanding what the African was trying to say. What the African was saying was that all children is an expression of the divine essence having the human experience. They deduce it to one child being the expression of the divine having the human experience.
Okay.
But if you look at the literature, clearly it comes straight out of ancient Kemet, that concept, and then the rest of it comes straight out of Hebrew literature.
Right.
Because all through the New Testament, you're referencing back to David, you're referencing back to Solomon, you reference back to Isaiah. So you're clearly moving from Hebrew literature in terms of a part of your theology, and the other part of your theology, which gives you your Godhead, the Jesus Immaculate Conception, clearly comes out of Nile Valley.
Right. Now, I'm glad you said that.
I just want to say real quick, too. I think it's interesting. So he said that the more Kemetic understanding, given the mythology with Asar and Aset, the supposed Immaculate Conception, that children are expression of the divine having a human experience, right? Now, what I think is interesting, from my understanding, really in ancient Kemet, you're dealing with, the Pharaoh was understood to have been,
the son of Ra.
The son of Ra. You know what I'm saying? So there clearly wasn't an equality of divinity. If indeed there was any divinity at all, they certainly didn't believe that everybody was equally divine.
Because homeboy that was making, the straw bricks down the block, he was not called the son of Ra.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So
I just think that's it's important to kind of bring those things out. They want to talk about the flowery stuff,
right?
But, yeah.
My stamp to this conversation by saying that one of the things that I'm enjoying from what you're saying in terms of the expression of the divinity is that I too, as well as the community I come from, believe that the divine dwells within us all. In fact, the way that we look at some of the anthropomorphic images in the Bible is more telling to this than anything else. So there's a prophet by the name of Isaiah who has an anthropomorphic vision of God seated upon a throne. There's another prophet known as Daniel who has an anthropomorphic vision of God seated on a throne. Now, in our oral tradition, the interpretation of this scenery, of this imagery, is that the anthropomorphic vision of a man sitting upon a high and exalted throne representing God, when the prophet reaches this highest level and stage of spiritual awareness so that he's even able to have this vision, the man that is sitting upon this throne, which represents God, is an image of the prophet himself.
Absolutely.
So what that's teaching us is that the greatest part of spirituality is teaching us that the divine dwells within us.
Absolutely.
So that in our oral tradition, we are seeing that the man seated upon the throne, which is representing God, is always an image of whoever the prophet is in that moment. Because again, the teaching is you are part of that divinity.
God in you.
God in you. So this is what makes this conversation a little bit more powerful for me.
Yeah.
All right. So again, much love and respect to Zion, Brooklyn. You know what I mean? So I just want to say that again. It's not the man, it's the information. So, but notice how he says the oral tradition, right? So he's making a difference between the oral tradition and the written one, right? The Tanakh, right? So I want people to understand that he's not just making this up out of thin air, right? He's not freestyling this position that he has. It comes from a source, right? And I want to talk a little bit about that source. So I want to share my screen real quick.
All right. There you go.
All right, this is from A World of Difference, Putting Christian Truth Claims to the Worldview Test. And it's talking about various worldviews. And one of them is monism. If all is one, monism, and the one is God, pantheism, then it follows that man is God. The true human self, identified in Hinduism as the Atman, is identical in essence to ultimate reality or God. This Atman is not merely related to or part of Brahman. Rather, Atman is Brahman. The true self is God. Because human beings are part of the universe, and that universe is collectively considered divine. Man's essence is divine. This is basically what Zion says.
That's what he said.
When he's talking about these throne room moments that these prophets have when they're being commissioned, right? He's saying that when they see God, what they're really seeing is themselves represented as God on the throne. So this is monism, right? Now, before you start thinking, well, is Zion now a Hindu? No, he's not, because there is a Jewish tradition that adheres to this form of paradigm. And I want to share that with you guys right now.
All right.
It's it's just from the book called Lessons in Tanya by Yosef Weinberg. Hasidic thought extends the divine immanence of Kabbalah by holding that God is all that really exists, all else being completely differentiated from God's perspective. This view can be defined as a cosmic monistic pantheism. According to this philosophy, God's existence is higher than anything that this world can express. Yet he includes all things of this world within his divine reality in perfect unity, so that the creation affected no change in him at all. This paradox, as seen from dual human and divine perspective, is dealt with at length in Chabad texts, right? And to continue from the same book, it says a linear exposition and commentary on Tanya based on a popular weekly radio series in Yiddish. Rabbi Weinberg's commentary draws upon the teachings he received from Hasidic scholars at the renowned academies of Lubavitch in Europe and on the writing of 7 generations of Chabad rabbis. Each of the lectures were examined and amended by Lubavitcher Rabbi Mathew M. Schneerson, so that much of the material includes the Rebbe's insights and explanatory comments. Lessons in Tanya leads the reader through every paragraph and page, illuminating the mystical, often elusive Talmudic, Kabbalistic, and scriptural verses and concepts. It fills many gaps in what the terse Tanya text assumes to be the reader's background knowledge. So what Zion is expounding on is basically a form of Jewish mysticism, right? That we see that's originated in the Chabad form of rabbinical Judaism. In fact, the Lubavitcher Rebbe Menahem Schneerson, he's from Brooklyn. He's from Crown Heights. And the Lubavitch
there in Brooklyn, bro.
It's just crazy in Brooklyn.
I need y'all to tighten up, man. Y'all messing up, man.
The Lubavitch, right? Well, it gets worse. He is considered the Mashiach in this particular brand of rabbinical Judaism.
Wow. Okay.
And he died in the early 90s, I think, early 80s. They're waiting for him to come back. He's the Messiah that they're waiting for.
Not coming back, B.
I'm just saying.
I'm sorry to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, so again, Zion is not freestyle. He's not just making that up on the spot just to appease Professor Smalls. Like, this comes from a particular Jewish thought that, to be quite honest, with all due respect, we don't find in the biblical text. Right. This is where we find it at. So.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm glad you cleared that up, because I mean, it could be, they could be mistaken. Like you said, just kind of freestyling, but he is. It's important to know where he's getting his information from, where he's drawing his ideology from, because it makes it easier for us to then contend against it. So let me go ahead and share my screen right quick.
Do it.
I want to take an example. So he talked about Isaiah. He talked about Daniel with these anthropomorphic visions of God. And by anthropomorphic, he just means like basically seeing God in some sort of human or human-like form.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So that's what he's talking about there. Shout out to Michelle Turner. Appreciate it.
That's right.
Let's see here. So let me share. So let's take a look at it. Isaiah chapter 6. Let's take a look at this.
Read.
Right. Bring it out.
That's right.
There you go. So I just want to highlight what happens when the prophet Isaiah encounters this, as Zion Lexx refers to as this anthropomorphic vision of God. And Zion is saying that, he's basically seeing himself. And that the lesson is that we're supposed to, it's the divine and you, so forth. Well, let's take a look at what Isaiah says in verse 5 of chapter 6. He says, "Woe to me, I cried. I am ruined. Why? For I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips. My eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty." Then, this is verse 6, then one of the seraphim flew to me with a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with tongs from the altar. And with it, he touched my mouth and said, "See, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away and your sin atoned for." Right? So now there's a couple of different things we can draw out of this. All right. First of all, and actually I'm going to make this bigger so people can see it. This is one of the main critiques, when you're dealing with any sort of pantheistic or panentheistic, or particularly pantheistic system, is this notion of an I-thou relation. Okay, is that basically in the text between in Isaiah 6, there's this clear understanding that there is me and there's this God figure that I'm encountering.
Right.
And like that's how it's articulated. You just read the text, right, without imposing any Kabbalistic, however you pronounce that, without inserting any of those things and imposing it upon the text. You just read it for what it says. It's clear that the author, Isaiah, has an awareness of himself and has an awareness of an entity, i.e. God, that is distinct from himself. That he looks at saying, okay, you're you and I'm me. So this is I-thou relation, okay, which cuts against this notion that they're one and the same. And there's clearly a distinction here being made, okay? Number two, as far as distinctions, right? There's something about Isaiah that is not true there's something true about Isaiah by his own description that is not true about the God Almighty. What's true about Isaiah, according to him, is that he has unclean lips. He lives among men who have unclean lips, people who have unclean lips, right? That's not the case of God. As he encountered God's holiness, as he encountered God's, Yahweh, as he encounters Yahweh in the beauty of his holiness, he is struck with an awareness, not only that I am me and Yahweh is Yahweh, but I'm unclean. I can't stand up in front of his holiness unashamed. I have guilt. I have something that needs to be addressed. I have a moral imperfection that I am now abundantly aware of, given the fact that I'm standing in front of and witnessing this holy, pure, Almighty God.
So if we go with this idea that God has expanded himself and he's in everyone and everything, and if we're going to take what the prophet is saying to be true, that he's saying that he is unclean and everything emanates from God and God is man and man is God, that means that the person that he sees on the throne, God, who is really him, is also a being of unclean lips.
Right. And that's and that's where I was going next. Morality.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take your.
No, it's cool. Actually, because you brought out a point I hadn't thought about, right? So if that's the case, then it should not be the case that he was ashamed, because he should have seen the same uncleanliness in this anthropomorphic depiction of himself, i.e., God, right? But the fact that he even noticed that there's obviously a distinction there, or else he wouldn't have noticed anything.
And if this is the height of his spiritual prowess, and you're at the mountaintop, and the thing that he sees at the pinnacle, the top tier of his spiritual journey is that he sucks.
Right.
at the apex of his walk in the spiritual realm, at his best, he's garbage.
Right.
Basically, right?
So actually, I want to say, wasn't it Isaiah where it talks about our righteousness is as filthy rags?
Right.
Is that Isaiah? So
is it? No, I don't know.
Or maybe Ezekiel, or I could be. I don't want to mess that up, but but I think that scripture is reflected in Isaiah's account. I'm saying that even at his highest point, according to Zion Lexx, he's still trash. I'm saying in terms of his own righteousness. You know what I'm saying? So but again, now we go to morality. Now this circles back to a point that you made earlier. But here's why worldviews matter. Okay, because if monism, everything is one,
right,
and you couple that with pantheism, so now everything is one and everything is a god,
right?
Now that means that, again, as you said, that means that man is God. I'm saying in essence, right?
Right. So
that immorality is a part of the divine,
right?
That uncleanness, that Isaiah was ashamed of. That's part of your ultimate reality.
Oh, we got confirmation. It was in Isaiah, and Michelle says it was Isaiah 64:6.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, sisters. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Sisters, look it out.
Yes,
right. Definitely. So, So what was I saying? Oh, yeah. So that's the thing. So if this moral imperfection is a part of man and thus part of the divine, how do you build a sturdy moral framework in terms of from a worldview standpoint? How does your worldview provide a sturdy moral framework if it is built on a foundation of an ultimate being that is morally imperfect?
Right.
You can't possibly be, we were talking about maximally great being earlier, maximally great being,
right?
Being that is no greater than. You can't be the greatest being if you're morally imperfect. You see what I'm saying? Given the fact that we can certainly logically come to say there must be a morally perfect being out there. Right. So obviously this being can't be it.
And remember, he's saying this in agreement to Professor Small's paradigm that he's conveying in this conversation.
Right.
So there's a contingent being that made everything and has expanded himself to everyone and everything. Mm-hmm. So when the prophet is at this pinnacle of righteousness and spirituality, he's looking at himself, which is also a contingent being.
Yeah, it must be. He must be. You know what I'm saying?
It's just it doesn't match up.
Matter of fact, let me share this right quick. I'm gonna make this real quick.
Go for it.
So we can go to the next point.
Go for it.
I can even take this off the screen now. So I was in Nebraska a couple weeks ago. I was doing a presentation and we had a Q&A, and there was a brother there who was Kemetic. You know what I'm saying? He was deep into it. Been around. He's an older gentleman, been in for some time, at least according to him anyway. And so what's interesting is, and this is another kind of little pro tip, most of these folks from these other worldviews, they don't expect for Christians to know what they believe. And they kind of, they kind of feel like they have like an edge, I guess, if you will, because they assume that we don't know. So in this instance, I was, this guy was making the same argument that Christianity was supposedly stolen from Kemet, and I was making the point of how they're fundamentally different. And I went here with this moral piece. I was like, okay, so you guys believe that everything is one. He's like, yeah, exactly. I was like, okay, cool. So if everything is one or an emanation of the one, then that means that beings, who commit evil are a part of the one or emanation of the one. He's like, yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. I'm like, okay, cool. Got you. So that means that during slavery time, when you had the enslaved persons being beaten by their oppressors, both the slave master and the slave were both emanations of the one. They're both expressions of the one.
Right. They're both God.
They're both God. So the people. So how can we fight oppression if the oppressor is God? How can that at all be of any benefit to our community if we bring it into today? Whether it be injustice or whatever. If the culprit is God, then your worldview has nothing to offer me.
The culprit is the victim, and the victim is the culprit.
Exactly. And it was funny. It was when I made it that clear. He was like, "No, that's not what I mean." I was like, "But this whole time you
agree with me all the right,
the whole way down." But I was saying, like, this is why worldviews matter, right? Because you can't build a worldview, especially thinking about our story here in the West. When you think about freedom fighters like Frederick Douglass, Absalom Jones, Marcus Garvey,
right.
all these greats. You know what I'm saying? If you're fighting against God, bro, what are we doing then? Like I mean, it makes no sense. You can't build no moral framework off of that. You know what I'm saying? So that, you know, it just kind of, I just wanted to illustrate like why.
But it's not only faulty. It's not only faulty. You don't find it in the text.
It's not in the text.
It's just not. So where are you talking about? That like, where's the comparison? Where's the ripoff? Where's the plagiarism? Like, I don't see it.
Right. But you know, but again, see, this is what happens when A, we're not sound in our theology,
right,
and B, we're trying to appease the world, and we're trying to build bridges to such an extent that what we end up doing is we degrade the God of Scripture. Right. We make the God of Scripture lesser than what Scripture has to say about him.
And what's more important, unfortunately, when it comes to a lot of people in this community, or just humans in general, is that sometimes rhetoric is more important than reason. Right? It's more the aesthetics and the emotionality trumps facts and substance.
Right.
You know, we like the flash. We like when our buttons are pressed. We like when certain things resonate, even if it doesn't make sense.
Right.
If it feels good, then it must be correct. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of people, and you know, with Professor Smalls and Zion, they're saying a lot of things that make people feel good.
Make them feel good, yeah.
But when you think it through, it just doesn't connect.
Right. Right. Woo. We rocking, man. We rocking. Now I don't know what you want to do. We got like 12 minutes left, bro. I don't know what you want to do, man.
I don't know.
Oh no. I guess we keep going.
Because a lot of it, from this point on, there's a lot of rehashing of the points they've made up to this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true. Yeah, so we'll let it rock and see. You know.
All right, let's go.
You want? What you want to do? You good with that?
Well, let's play a little bit. See if we find any more stuff to talk about.
All right, cool.
Moment. So I want to ask you now, how relevant?
There is one point that you're gonna like.
Topic to the overall growth of African spirituality in America, in Africa, and in anywhere throughout the diaspora. Why is this conversation so important, if it's important at all?
It's a very important conversation, because what the Roman did, they subverted the African consciousness, who was then under their occupation. They subverted.
Hey, you know what? Can I pause it real quick?
Go ahead.
Just for the sake, I mean, and I try to be objective. You know what I'm saying? And this is actually not a criticism. You know what I'm saying? Now, for people who don't know, there was like, I think it's fair to say there was beef between these individuals.
At one point,
there was some discord prior to,
yes.
You know what I'm saying, this film right here.
Yes.
And I do want to point out what I do appreciate about Zion Lexx, even though I disagree with the information, what I do appreciate about Zion Lexx is that he's approaching Professor Smalls in a very humble way. He's giving him an opportunity to explain his perspective. He's listening, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's dope. You know what I'm saying? Because I regardless of what community you come from, right. I like Zion Lexx's posture, you know what I'm saying, in terms of engaging, a gentleman who I'm sure they disagree on some things still. You know what I'm saying? But he's engaging them in a gentlemanly fashion. Right. You know, and I just want to say big ups to that as well.
Oh no, I mean there's definitely growth between both of them, because there definitely was some serious contention at one point. So the fact that they can have this type of a conversation is really, really dope. It really is. So
and to Professor Small's credit, you know what I'm saying? Like if you're an elder in a community, then what you should be doing is modeling, how people ought to act. You know what I'm saying? We know there's a lot of ratchetness that goes on in the conscious community, and not just the conscious community. You know what I'm saying, but there's a lot of ratchetness that goes on. There's a lot of beef, back and forth between individuals.
Yep.
And here's an example, of two folks in that community,
right,
who has some contention, apparently have squashed it, and are now sitting down, having positive dialogue. And I think that's
they're enjoying each other's presence. It's very
right. Right, it's not forced. I mean, it seems like they're really, looking to engage them. So I just wanted to kind of add that positive part in there.
No doubt.
And unless we be construed as haters, I mean, and I'm being for real. I think that's dope.
No, absolutely, I agree.
Away from their indigenous understanding of cosmology and ecology, and our relationship to the cosmological and the ecological that we're a part of. I think the word Adam in your tradition means earth.
Yes.
Okay. And so in ancient Kemet, it's called Geb. But there's a clear relationship between earth and sky. In Kemet, it's called Geb and Nut.
That's right.
So if you go into West Africa and you take the Yoruba tradition.
Again, remember, the title, put the cursor back on so I can see the title of the video.
Yeah.
The title, right? A conversation about Christianity being stolen out of Kemet, right? So he says, you believe in Adam, right? Which means earth, right?
Right.
Adam, right? Earth. And he's like, well, we have Geb, and we have I forgot the sky deity.
Newt. Newt. Yep.
So again, right, he's trying to make a correlation, right? Geb and Newt are brother and sister. And they have a relationship, a sexual relationship that their deity father disapproves of. So to punish them, he separates them so that they can see each other, but they can never touch. And that's how we have the earth and the sky.
Interesting.
Does that sound like Genesis to you?
Nah, bro. I don't want no parts of that, bro. Because I think if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. Well, no, I might be getting it mixed up. But were they the ones that were having relations like in the womb or something like that? Was that right?
Oh, I don't know if it's in the womb, but they were having relations, and the father approved. And because of that, to punish them, that's when he separated. Now again, right? Worldviews matter, right?
Right.
When God creates the planet, who does he create it for? In the Bible.
Oh, yeah, human beings, right.
Human beings.
Yeah, sure.
That's not the case in the theogony.
Right.
Earth and sky are being created to punish the earth and the sky. The humans just happen to luck out that punishment works in their favor. Right. So that means the God wasn't even thinking about the humans like that.
You won't even worry about it, yo.
It just so happened, it just indirectly benefits human beings.
Right.
That's your beginning. That's your beginning.
Yeah, I think in some in some versions of their origin story, I want to say that human beings come about as a result of the divine's being's tears.
Yes.
And then there's another one where it's like he sneezes or something like that, and we're made out of that. I mean, so it wasn't like it definitely wasn't like Genesis where God is like intentional. Like, look, let me make these beings in my image, and I'm going to bestow upon them, the mantle of stewarding the earth and all that kind of stuff. It definitely wasn't that. You know what I'm saying? We were definitely an afterthought in the Kemetic tradition. You know
but again, where's the connection?
I don't know, bro. Yeah, you got me. I don't know, bro.
So,
yeah, right.
Continue.
Man, it's rough right here. But all right, here we go. It's rough, man. It's getting rough, man.
Yeah. But there's a clear relationship between earth and sky. In Kemet, it's called Geb and Nut.
That's right.
So if you go into West Africa and you take the Yoruba tradition, it is very clear we refer to the Godhead as Oludumare, which is a feminine, according to Professor Akajobin, is a feminine name for the divine, even though a lot of the brothers in the tradition try to make Oludumare a masculine.
Right.
It is not a masculine, it is a feminine. But in that tradition, we are taught that the divine lives in everyone.
That's right.
But that the divine is too vast for us to comprehend. So what we've been allowed to comprehend are the qualities and attributes of the divine.
That's right.
And they're called Orishas. Orishas is nothing but the qualities and attributes of the divine. The same thing in voodoo. The qualities and attributes of the divine is called the Loas. They found in cosmology, ecology, and the human body. Right?
Pause.
Everything else in nature.
So I guess I need to study more. When they say this point, and they, constantly say this, that these are not so much earth of gods, but attributes of God. Is there any extant primary sources from the originators of this paradigm that says that?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
I've always asked, and I never get maybe I'm asking the wrong people. Because that sound okay. I mean, that's what you're saying, but is that what these original indigenous people? If we had a time machine and we went back to these indigenous places where they are having voodoo and the Ifa and all that, and I ask them, these other deities, are these deities or attributes? Would they agree with Professor Small's claim?
That's a good question. I mean, for one thing, to be honest, I think a lot of times folks like Dr. Smalls they do a disservice to these different spiritual systems, because like right now, I mean, he's going from voodoo, he's going to Yoruba and so forth. I mean, these are distinct systems. You know what I'm saying? Now there may be some overlap in terms of certain practices, some similarities maybe, but basically Africa is not monolithic.
Right.
Then so you might go to one tribe and they might say that these are different aspects, of the one divine, but then you might go to another group, people group, and they might be like, no, it's just an entity, and it's doing its thing, and there may be a high god that this entity is in interaction with, and we want this entity to do such and such. Like we can't assume, or either assume or impose and flatten all African theology into this one model,
right?
And so I think they really they do a disservice to these different African peoples when they just want to flatten it all and make it all Kemetic. Right. That's just not right. All these different groups have their own traditions, they have their own philosophies, and when you just kind of strip all that away and make it what you want it to be, or I don't know. I think you just really trying to trample upon both their cultures and history along with it. Yeah.
Good point. Absolutely.
Yep. But we as human beings have to learn then through our teachers and our leaders and our prophets and our spiritual guides how to recognize these qualities, attributes, and develop them in the human character. So you become more godlike in your daily being, in your daily living. Right. And when somebody tampers with that.
So what's interesting is this though. So what he said, what, matter of fact, let me play back what he said. And I just want to make a real quick point.
Go ahead.
He's talking about character formation. So he's starting with the Arius and he's talking about character formation. Okay. Right. Let's try that.
Guys, how to recognize these qualities, attributes, and the thing in voodoo. The qualities and attributes of the divine is called the Logos. They're found in cosmology, ecology, and the human body, right? And everything else in nature. But we as human beings have to learn then through our teachers and our leaders and our prophets and our spiritual guides how to recognize these qualities, attributes, and develop them in the human character. So you become more godlike in your daily being, in your daily living.
Right. Okay. So again, he says that the Orishas, they're representing or I guess giving voice to or symbolically presenting these different elements of the divine. And he's saying we need to be able to recognize these character traits, these qualities of the divine. Mm-hmm. And then, we're seeking the Orishas, the prophets, and the list of different folks that we can kind of glean from as we develop these qualities in our character.
Right.
Okay? The problem is this, is that if everything is the divine, okay, if everything is the divine, right, all men or whatever, then the behavior that Europeans displayed when they stole people from Africa, bought and sold people from Africa, beat, rape, any behavior that these guys want to name, I'm saying all of those behaviors represent qualities of the divine on their worldview. So when he's talking, he's just talking about the positive part. Well, we want to develop these qualities and let it be part of our character so we can be godlike. Well, the most heinous, rapinist, evil slave master on your system
is
godlike. That's what happens when your theology is off. I'm saying so you can't. So what are you being mad about? What are you mad? So
because you just being God. That's all. You're being godly.
He's being godly.
But watch this too, right? He says that we have to look at these Orishas and different attributes so that we can recognize these things, so we could be more like God. Now, if I'm already God and God is in me, we're all one. What's there to recognize? Because what you're saying is God has blind spots.
Ooh, yeah.
There are parts of God that he has not discovered yet.
Right.
He hasn't drove down that block yet. There's parts of him that he's not aware of.
Bro. But yeah, I'm telling, bro, you gotta cut it out, man. You're giving me too many. I gotta think about this too. So here's the thing, right? So we've already established that on their system, God is a contingent being. Yeah, he described a tomb as being a contingent being. Okay. Number two, we've already established that this contingent being is morally flawed because their God is everything, and we obviously see more of imperfection in nature. Now we've established that not only is he morally flawed, but he's also not omniscient. You know what I'm saying? We know that he doesn't know all true propositions. There are things that their God doesn't know.
And but he's hoping that those parts figure it out sometime in the future. So he's created this paradigm. So he's aware that he doesn't know stuff. So he creates this paradigm so the other parts of him can recognize that they're parts of him.
Apparently.
Right?
Yeah, I guess so.
You see, when you actually try to help fix and clean up the paradigm, it just gets more and more
it gets worse,
convoluted, right? So,
right. As MJ said, he cut himself because Isfet is a part of the divine. That's absolutely right. Now, Isfet, just to clarify, so in the Kemetic vocabulary or vernacular, Isfet refers to chaos. That would be like the word, the parallel word for us. And in their system, chaos, they would use that term in the same way that we might use the term evil. Right. Or wrong. So they would associate it, chaos, disorder. That's basically their moral framework there. But to MJ's point, he cut himself. Isfet is a part of the divine. So really, you can't do anything. Whatever you do, you're godlike. Really. So why? Right. So why bother to manifest these positive qualities when you can be just as godlike, being as carnal and evil as you want to be? Now watch this. Godlike. This is very much a spiritualized atheism. Now, what do I mean by that? Okay. Because in the atheist worldview, there isn't good or bad. You can't anchor it because there's nothing there to anchor it down. At best, it's preference. You do what you like, right? Ooh, yeah, true. So within this paradigm, it's like you basically do what you like too, because no matter where you go, you're God. Right. Good and evil are on equal footing. There is no good and evil. It's just what you do. Yeah, you're right. It's just whatever. Yeah. We make right. Like going to your metaphor, the slave owner and the slave are both gods having human experiences. Right. It's true. And matter of fact, going back to your point about Hinduism, I'm saying in their system, I'm saying now, granted, I don't want to throw it on their whole. Maybe someone would disagree, but my understanding is that in Hinduism, they take evil to be an illusion, like it doesn't really exist. The whole thing is an illusion. That's a good point. Whole paradigm, which is self-refuting, because that means that paradigm is also an illusion. It's also an illusion. Yeah. Right. A cycle of illusions going on. Yeah, it's inception. It's inception. But to your point, like you can't have anything but subjective morality on these guys' system, because regardless of what you do, it's whatever you want to do. And because you can't have right and wrong, because the minute you point at someone else and say what you're doing is wrong, what you are saying at the same time is God is wrong. Right. Oh, and here's the thing too. It's another point. So if right and wrong, all right. So let me back up for a second. So from a biblical perspective, right, God Himself is the very essence of what it means to be good. He Himself is good. Right. And the very definition of what it means to be good. Right. So in their system, that's not the case. Because you have this morally flawed being. And so God can't look to Himself in their system, as a standard for goodness. Right. Now, if that's the case, then in order for you to identify what's right and wrong, you're going to have to look outside of God. So now there have to be these moral facts outside of God to which God,
they're not allowed because they are God.
Right.
They can't go outside of themselves.
Right. So yeah, exactly. So where are you going? And if you do, if there is some standard of good outside of God, then that means that God is now beneath that standard. Like God is beholden to that standard. So how is he the most high? I'm saying if he has to follow cues of goodness or badness or whatever from some standard outside of him. So then again, you have this being that can't possibly be the maximally great being. Can't possibly be. So like it's like 4 counts so far. The God as they describe him can't possibly be, the greatest.
And again, the thing that we're subscribing, do we find this in scripture?
No.
So where's the connect? Again, I'm gonna just keep drilling that. Where's the connection? Because they keep saying there's a direct connection.
Right.
And the more we look at what they're saying, we look at the scriptures, I don't see the correlation they speak of.
And see that, it's interesting. I hadn't really thought about it, but to your point, like I feel like earlier on in the video, the question was, where are the sources? You know what I'm saying? And now as we're getting more into describing their spiritual systems, I think you're right. The question is, well, where is the connections? You know what I'm saying? Like, because you're not finding them in scripture. So where is this supposed meeting place, between worldviews? You know what I'm saying?
Rhetoric over reason.
Rhetoric over reason. There we go.
When somebody tampers with that, and what the European did was to tamper with that, take us away from the law. See, because those qualities, that's part of what the law is about. Right. So it took us away from the laws of the universe, the laws of the divine, and it took us away from how to build the divine character within the human character.
That's right.
And so you find that throughout.
Wait, pause.
Evil.
Yeah.
So the Romans did that, right? The Romans did that to him.
Are we talking about the Romans, or are we talking about the slave owners and all that? I'm not sure which group he was.
Well, nice about the Romans that they subverted African thought and made it into this.
Oh, okay.
But the Romans are part of the one as well, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's
right.
All right. Continue.
Little heat check. I got you.
Yeah.
Yoruba, whichever one. They may be manifesting a little different depending on the environment they find themselves in, the ecology they're in. That determines what anthropomorphically they'll use to symbolize an idea. But they're trying to symbolize ideas, concepts, and principles that our ancestors learned from nature, learned from the cosmology, and learned to adapt themselves to. Because nature and the cosmology is perfect law. They're following the law in perfection.
That's right.
We're the ones that can slide off the key. That's why we get prophets. That's why we get messages.
God can slide off key?
Yeah, bro.
God can slide off? God be sliding?
Right.
Wow.
Bro. I mean, so, let me just play that back.
God has a bad day, I guess.
What is it?
Ancestors learned from nature, learned from the cosmology, and learned to adapt themselves to. Because nature and the cosmology is perfect law. They're following the law in perfection.
That's right.
We're the ones that can slide off the key. That's why we get prophets. That's why.
Bro, first of all, that's it. Like, why should we buy that assertion that nature is and cosmology is perfect law? Number one, I'm saying like why? How are you making this created order? You know what I'm saying, or I'm not even using the word created. I'm gonna try to stay within their system. You know what I'm saying, like, what is it about nature that makes it perfect law? And if that is the case, let's just say that it is. Let's just grant that. How, like, aren't we part of nature?
No, you're missing the first part.
Okay.
The God who created nature is created by nature.
Right.
And he also learns from the nature that created him.
Because he can slide off.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It doesn't, like, when you walk it through, right? When you walk it through, it's just weird, bro. Like,
right. Well, you know what? To your point, and this is something that I would encourage people to do when you're listening to debates, or it's not a debate, or just content, whether it be debate, dialogue, whatever it may be. If you listen to us right now, sometimes it's helpful to rewind it back and maybe even write down the claims that people are making.
And MJ gives you the $20 word.
Yeah, reification. Okay, brother. You know what I'm saying? So now, the fallacy of reification, you're basically treating something that's like that's basically inanimate as if it were. Well, actually, there's different ways you can go with it. So I don't know how far we want to go, but I mean, one way of looking at it would be you're treating something that's not, oh man, dang on the MJ, man, you're gonna make me go over a different tangent.
Go for it, man. Go, man. Go ahead. Go.
So here's the thing, right? Why should we treat the natural order as if it's like, issuing, if it's prescriptive in any sort of way, as if it is, like, why should we treat it like a person? You know what I'm saying? Why should we treat it as if it's this lawgiver? I'm saying, yes, nature is what it is. Why look at it as if we should be taking our cues from it?
Well, technically, going to their paradigm, it should have more credence than the God itself, because the God comes from the material world.
Mm-hmm.
So we should actually listen to nature as opposed to the God that created it, that was created from it, right?
Right. But so we should basically ignore.
It's crazy.
I'm about to put the definition of fallacy of reification. I'm not going to spend time on it, but
right.
I'm going to put it in the chat.
Yeah, and MJ got them $20 words, boy.
Yeah, I want everybody to kind of follow along. So let me put that in the chat right quick. MJ starting stuff, man.
Yeah, as always.
Oh man, the definition is too long. I can't even put it in there. Oh man, if I try this.
Well, we have time, everybody. Google.
Yeah, I put like a shortened version. You know what I'm saying? In it, yeah.
Oh, okay. Let me put that up. Hold up.
Right. So yeah, so basically treating something inanimate as if it's person. I just now put it in the chat. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so I won't be able to get into it now. But yeah, that's the whole point. You know what I'm saying? Where are we going from it? Oh, okay, yeah, I'm getting back to the video.
All right.
Oh yeah, but so that's what I was getting at. Like, why should we take the cosmos and nature? I'm saying to MJ's point about the about reification. Why should we take it as being a law? Like, why should we look at it as being the ultimate? If that makes sense, you know what I'm saying? Why do that?
Because the ultimate is you, right?
Of
That's
course,
what Zion taught us, right?
Yeah, if you're gonna do it, then you might as well see it as like, how do you slide off from yourself? That's what I'm like, how, bro? How?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Oh man, here we go, man. MJ starting stuff, man.
Always.
Messengers. That's why we get God to bring us back on key. Mm-hmm. And that's what the West tampered with when they created really a false understanding of the relationship between humans and the divine.
That's right.
So the West side of God interrupted the East side of God. West side. So the West side of God completely just threw a monkey wrench, which is also God, into the East part of God.
Yeah, apparently this East Coast West Coast beef is way deeper than we realize.
It's deeper than rap.
It's deeper than rap.
Oh man,
it's deep, bro. It's deeper than rap, dog.
So God is set tripping. God is set tripping. Man, it's deep.
It's deep, bro.
What set you claim? God. Okay.
Oh man. I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna keep it going. But
yeah. They were not able to truly comprehend our system fully. Mm-hmm. They were not able to see all aspects. And the brothers and sisters, or the brothers who were at the Nicaea conference, did not give them the whole thing.
That's right.
You see that in Freemasonry, and you see it in
pause. Bro. Wait. So which is foul, right? So you invite people to your council, right? You invite these Kemetic priests because you want to get the 411 on the belief system, right? And then they turn around and don't give you it. They give you like half it. So they scammed you.
Yeah, they scammed.
They beat you in the head and they bounced on you. Like word,
bro.
They ran off on the plug.
They got catfish back in the
They ran off with on the plug. They like really?
Bro.
Anyway.
Yeah, ancient scam, bro. That's crazy. And the thing about it is, like, bam, again, where are the sources?
Right.
Where are the sources? Show me in the works of Arius, the letters of Arius, Athanasius, Theodore, all the people that we named, Eusebius. Show me the passage where you see a portion of the Kemetic teachings being given such that you can say, okay, yeah, they withheld this part, but they gave them that part. Right. Show me that in the sources. That's what I want to know. Man, this is wild. This is wild.
Keep going.
Right.
And so they didn't give them, they gave them enough that they could build something and satisfy themselves and elevate themselves, but they did not give them the full wisdom system
That's right.
that our ancestors left for us.
That's right. That's a great point. And I want to say that far too many people don't make a distinction between the historical narrative, if Jesus is in fact historical.
Right.
Not enough people make the distinction between the life he may have led and lived versus the story that Romans, or i.e. Europeans, tell about him.
Right.
So based on the research that I have done, going to the libraries, attempting to read that which the ancestors have recorded, learning the meta-nature, employing understanding of Hebrew vernacular, taking all of these tools, the field work and the knowledge, and attempting to marry them, what I saw so far is that a distinction must be made between the historical character versus the Roman Catholic mythology told about him.
Right.
And it is the Roman Catholic mythology that becomes what we're calling Christianity.
Right.
And it is this Roman Catholic mythology called Christianity that was stolen from Kemet. So the Hebrew Israelites who believe and base their spiritual ideals on the walk of a person known as Jesus, of which the community that I come from, we do not. But there's a greater half of Hebrews that do. So for those Hebrews, like your Captain Tazariaks, these brothers, your divine prospects, what they say is that we too reject European Christianity. We do reject Roman Catholicism. So that the conversation becomes a little bit more complex, because for people who don't have the research that you have, Professor Smalls, and all of the great elders, they bind all of this knowledge in one box so that when they see the Bible, they see Christianity. But to people who know the true tradition of the Bible, they make a distinction between how the Romans take from the narrative of the Hebrews and steal from Kemet to create this system which is called Christianity. Right. And a distinction must be made there.
They did.
Right.
All right, so I wanted to weigh in on that real quick, because I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, and this actually goes back to something that I think what Brother Garfield is trying to get at, okay? When historians are trying to ascertain what happened with a particular event or set of events, I'm saying what they want to do is they want to take what they know about the context, the historical context, and they want to, understand what happened. They want to provide a plausible explanation, I'm saying, of what happened. And by plausible, I mean, okay, like this right here, this explanation that we have right here is in accord with what we know, like basically the known facts surrounding this event or set of events. Okay. Now, here's the problem. Zion Lexx is saying that basically you have the historical, or at least it's, if Jesus existed, then there's this historical figure, you know what I'm saying? And then there's this extra layer of Roman mythology, I'm saying, that where basically they concocted, right, you know what I'm saying, from, the Kemetic traditions, and then kind of added on.
It's a composite sketch.
A composite sketch. Now, there's a couple of problems with that. Number one of the criteria that historians are going to use to ascertain what's the most plausible explanation for an event or set of events is the criteria of simplicity. All right.
Arkham Fraser.
There you go. The more and more parts you add on to try to explain something, the more likely you've come up with something that really doesn't represent the facts. That's kind of the idea behind the criteria of simplicity. Same thing they use in science as well. Philosophy also. It's just a principle, right? This is getting into historical methodology, right? So here's the thing. If you add in, all right, you got the Kemetic tradition, we got the Romans in the mix, we got the Hebrews in the mix. Like, you keep adding on different parts, and so now your explanation is top heavy in a way that a more simpler explanation is gonna, basically be preferable. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not.
Even when you say Kemetic tradition, which one? We're talking pre-dynastic. We're talking Middle Kingdom, New Kingdom. Are we talking of a Ptolemaic? Like, which part of the tradition did they steal from?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So,
it's just like, think about, like, if you talk, let's say you come home, right, and one of your kids, you come in the house and there's a glass, jar of marbles that was knocked over, or let's say a cookie jar is knocked over,
right.
There's a bunch of glass on the floor.
Right.
Your daughter says, I knocked it over, when I was, trying to get some cookies. Boom. All right. That makes sense. Very simple.
Right.
And, that's what it is. Now, on the other hand, let's say your son comes up and like, Dad, somebody broke in the house, and then there was aliens, and there was a scuffle, and then, he's like adding on more, like,
right.
Add on, then you're like,
It takes away from the credibility of the response.
Exactly. And so that's what I'm saying. The more and more pieces you add to an explanation, I'm saying you're making it less and less plausible. I'm saying if you're adding them in addition to what's necessary to explain what it is that you're trying to explain, an event or occurrence or whatever. So that's one problem. What I'm saying? But the other problem is too, when we're talking about making plausible explanations. What we know about the Romans is this: they didn't want uprisings. I'm saying when they took over a land, they came in, they was trying to rule, and that was it. And if you had a problem with it, it was off with your head, kind of a thing. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you're the Romans and you're going to basically create a belief system, what you're not going to do, first of all, is create a belief system where the central figure is a messianic figure whose whole goal is to overthrow the oppressor.
He's the king of the Jews.
Yeah, he's the king of the Jews.
And they're hailing him as opposed to Caesar.
Right. You're not, come on, man. That's completely counterintuitive and antithetical to what the Romans were about, right? Number one. Number two, what we know is that the Romans, they didn't have a problem if you worship your gods as long as you included their gods and you ain't creating no smoke for them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They could do that, and religion was, and paganism was a part of everyday life, from the political system to the market and so forth. But as long as you was cool with it, as long as you wasn't rocking the boat, you're good.
Right.
So if they're going to create a system for a particular group of people, what they're not going to do is say, hey, we're going to give them this God who's a monotheistic God that they're not allowed to worship anybody else.
Right.
Because they're
willing to die on that principle.
They're willing to die for it. You know what I'm saying? So now we have this central messianic figure who's going to overthrow, I'm saying, our whole jank. And then we also have this God who requires an exclusive service that undermines our entire system. You know what I'm saying? From politics on down.
Let me play devil's advocate, though, right? Because then they'll say, well, that was true in the beginning of the belief, right? Mm-hmm. But then as time progressed and Constantine came into power, he saw that he can use that to his advantage. So it became now a political football that he can use for his own, power.
Right. Well, so, how I would return on that is that, okay, so now we've got to think about theological development. You know what I'm saying? By the time that Constantine comes along, I mean, whatever you want to say about Christianity, there's obviously doctrine on the books. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not cooking it up. We got P50, I would say 51 or 52. We got fragments, you know what I'm saying, documentation from that the first 3 centuries of Christians.
The Maturian fragment that already had the list of the books of the New Testament.
Sure.
Like, good century before, the council is here.
Thank you. Exactly. So, I mean, yeah, you can say that, let's say that, explanatory scope, explanatory power, plausibility, less ad hoc. Exactly. So I was kind of focusing on that ad hoc piece, you know what I'm saying, for the most part. Actually, well, 3 and 4. Yeah, so the thing of it is that when you think, if let's say Constantine is this Johnny come lately who, takes over or whatever, you know what I'm saying, and is kind of directing theology at that point or whatever. I mean, even if that were true, I mean, if we can go to the original sources, i.e. the New Testament text, Old Testament text, mm-hmm. and give you what it is that, what we're referring to as orthodoxy, regardless of what Constantine was doing. I'm going back to the original text. Right. So you still got to deal with that. And actually, I want to point people to Vince Bantu's talk was phenomenal, and recently at the Unapologetically Black and Unashamedly Christian Conference. As a matter of fact, I'll put that in the chat as well. He gave a talk where he actually made a great point. I hadn't really thought about it, but when we speak of Constantine's influence in, quote, the church, we're assuming that the faction, I'm saying, of the ecclesia, of the body of Christ, that Constantine was exercising some interactions and perhaps influence over, we're referring to that as the church. However, as Bantu points out, that's not the entirety of the church. I'm saying, because you have Christians in Asia who are holding it down orthodox. You have Christians in portions of the Roman world, you know what I'm saying, who are in opposition to Constantine and so forth, and holding it down for orthodoxy. You have Christians in
Persia, right?
Yeah, Persia. Yeah, Persia. So you actually have outside of the Roman world, I'm saying, you got Christianity, going on. They spread to these different places, and even within the Roman world, there's not a monolith. You know what I'm saying? So it's actually inappropriate when we say, "Oh, this such and such was going on with the church." No, we need to be more nuanced with that. Even as apologists, we need to be careful about that. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because what we end up doing then is overstating Constantine's influence and impact. Whereas again, we can look to previous sources. I mean, really the primary sources of Christianity, i.e., the biblical text, as well as those who are in opposition to, Constantine and Arians and so on and so forth, who are all standing for orthodoxy. So people like, I think Bantu might mention somebody like Shenouda, even so forth. You know what I'm saying? So we really had to be careful about that.
Facts.
Man, we almost at 3 hours, bro. 3 hours. All right, you want to keep it rolling? What you want to do? You want to camp out, or what you want to do?
Oh man, I don't know. It is 3 hours. That's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's only a little bit left. We could actually do like a follow up, maybe sometime next week if you want to do that and just kind of finish it out. Or
we could, or we could start working on that other thing we were talking about that we won't mention now.
True. Okay. True.
People get a big kick out of that,
right?
But yeah, I think we're gonna wrap it up, man, because it's 12:50 by me.
Yeah.
So, but listen, man, tell the people, up and coming stuff that you're about to embark on.
Yeah, man. So, well, now because of you and MJ Jackson, some stuff that was said here tonight, I got to go back and write a couple of articles, man, because some insights that have come out. I think some creative ways to use the contingency argument and things like that I've actually been trying to get to. And actually, you said some stuff that helped me to get there.
This guy said you broke a record. Yeah, I think it's the longest I've been on YouTube. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, and what's funny is we were saying that, oh man, it's just like a 20-25 minute clip. We're not gonna be that long. We ended up having like the longest.
Yeah, right.
But it was just so much there, man. So, but yeah. So anyway, well, of course, we both have the Cyber City conference.
That's right.
Next week. You know what I'm saying? We've got that going on with shout out to my man Vocab. We're having an online conference, so you don't have to worry about it being canceled
because of that Rona.
You know what I mean?
Rona.
It's a cyber city, then not an actual city, Jane. We're gonna be online with it.
Right.
That's coming up next week. Definitely.
She's funny. She said,
funny. "This is only 3 p.m."
Hey, come back. It's only 3 p.m. Friday here in Australia.
Right. Keep it going for the Australian family out there.
Yeah.
Shout out to Elizabeth Oakman, man. So yeah, I got that coming out. I've got some articles that I'm working on that hopefully I should be able to finish by the end of May. Shout out to my man Alex McElroy in Chicago, because we're going to be out there at the end of April at the Proof for the Truth conference. I'm saying,
well, God willing. I mean, I don't know how this virus thing. Hopefully that gets squashed. Yeah,
actually, I texted him this morning. So I mean, he said that as of right now, we're it's full steam ahead. We'll see how things play out.
Right.
But thus far,
that's for you, Adam.
Yeah. Okay. I'll post it again. I got it right here. Yeah. Got it right there. I assume he meant for purchase. That's kind of. I guess that's what he was referring to. Yeah. I'm having trouble. Huh. Maybe I'm on the wrong screen. Hold up. I'm trying to post it right now, Doc. Like, just give me 1 second. But yeah, so the Proof for the Truth conference in Chicago, that's going to be going down. Definitely looking forward to that.
Can you put the link to that as well?
Yeah. Yep, I surely can.
Maybe I could find that. Hold on.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you might be
I'll
quick.
take care of that.
Yeah. You want to try it or?
Yeah, I'm gonna look for it.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that's coming up. And yeah, like I said, I got some articles, about to pop off, and a couple speaking engagement, man. So
Nice.
I'll be preaching in Milwaukee. That's in June, so that's a couple months away. And I actually, you know what? Matter of fact, I'm gonna be in New York.
When?
In May.
Word?
Yeah,
you wasn't gonna tell me?
Man,
you wrong, bro.
Yeah, I know, man. I know.
You're so wrong for that.
It's terrible, bro. That's terrible.
Doing what? What you doing here? What you doing in New York for?
Yeah, so shout out to Brett Kunkel. He's an apologist out there from West Coast. You know what I'm saying? And I'll be with him. And
wait, Greg Kokel, you said?
No, Brett Kunkel.
Oh.
Brett Kunkel actually used to be with Greg Kokel at Stand to Reason, but he's actually doing his own thing now.
Okay.
Called Maven. So Maven is an organization that trains up young folks. You know what I'm saying? And they've got different tracks, but I'll be doing the Christian worldview track, basically. So I'll be in. We'll be going to different sites.
What part of New York are you gonna be at?
I'm not exactly sure. I'm gonna have to get back to. I don't know exactly.
Because you gotta check in if you're coming here.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you gotta check in.
I think we're gonna be a different place. I'm trying to share this link, man. I don't know what I'm doing right now.
You sure you're putting it on the YouTube thing?
Oh yeah, you're right. I should pull up his YouTube joint. I'll put it in. Maybe I can put it up there later. I'd have to find that.
Okay.
I don't have it on me right now. But yeah, so I'm gonna be up there in May, man. Get it in. Teaching some young folks about the Christian worldview. So
that's what's up.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Hey, you know what? Maybe if they reschedule the debate in May, maybe somehow, maybe you could actually be there for that as well.
Oh yeah, that'd be dope. Yeah, that's true. Maybe they will by then. That's a good point. That's a good point. Mm-hmm.
Cool. So I mean, for me, I just got the Cybersecurity conference coming up, and yeah, man, I'm just trying to build up the channel. Trying to get my Adam Coleman on. You know what I mean?
Oh man, you're doing it, bro. You're doing it.
I'm trying.
Like, for years, bro, I was teetering around a couple hundred. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, you got all the pieces in place. You just got to keep on at it, man. Keep doing your thing. Yeah, I got some new videos dropping as well, probably next week. We're trying to get it in like that, man. So
well, there's another big debate in July, right? Damon Richardson versus Brother Polite.
Oh yeah.
God willing, that will be in Brooklyn, in my hometown.
Right. So that's gonna be pretty powerful right there.
That's must see TV.
What I mean? Keep my man Damon Richardson in prayer, man. And I think he's I'm very confident that he will do well in this debate. I'll just leave it at that.
It's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be
real. It's a great time to be an apologist, man. It's a great time to be an apologist. So, y'all, for anybody who may not, already be, definitely check me out at True ID Apologetics, the YouTube channel, True ID Apologetics. If you feel so inclined, hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and possibly even Patreon. We'd appreciate any support you can give. So, we're trying to grow the ministry a bit. So anything helps. Yep.
Right. I also make urban apologetic inspired T-shirts. I'm going to put the link right now so you guys can check it out. Also, my man, Servant of Christ Ministry, he also makes T-shirts as well. And he's coming out with a book on the book of Galatians as a commentary. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, it's about to drop soon. SOC, if there's any links you want to put in the chat, feel free. You know what I mean? So, yeah, so he's doing, he's coming from an ex-Judaizer's perspective. On the book of Galatians, which is ill, right? Because the book of Galatians targeted someone like him,
right?
So for someone that was the target to now write about it, that's just an amazing insight.
That's powerful, man. That's powerful. Yeah, I'll definitely be getting a copy of that. That's dope. That's dope.
Yes, sir.
Definitely want support.
So any last words, sir, before we wrap this up?
Well, I mean, it's all, and maybe I don't have to say it. I mean, but just for the sake of clarity and I mean, this session was not about bombing people or anything like that. Or,
absolutely,
it's all about teaching, dealing with the information. That's as simple as that. With that being said, I think it's important, man. You know, this is the information age. You know what I'm saying? And it's important that we screen information with critical thinking, you know, taking our time and just really being good stewards of our mental life, if you will. You know what I'm saying? And approaching these things in an appropriate manner. So that's what this is really all about, man. It's not about joking on folks. But, you know, I mean, I guess the last thing I would say is, hey, you know, check people's sources, man. You know, when people make claims, ask for these sources, yo. I'm saying, like, I mean, I'm telling you, the Council of Nicaea is not a mystery. Like, we know what happened. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, and when people are making claims about these worldviews, you know, test those claims and see if their worldview is internally consistent. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you and I, we didn't practice this. You know what I'm saying? We didn't, you know, sit down and go point for point. Okay, you're gonna say this, so I'm gonna say,
right. You
know, you came with your information, I came with my information. And what's crazy is that when you look at how everything fell into place, at the end of the day, we come to the conclusion that this Kemetic worldview at its bottom or foundation, you got this contingent, morally flawed, not omniscient, not maximal being. You know what I'm saying? Which, you know, by definition, knocks him out the box for being in any sort of contention for, you know, some sort of you know, God or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Or any correlation to the God of the Bible.
Or any correlation to the God of the Bible. I'm saying that's like three attributes that disqualify the Kemetic God for being anything to the God of the Bible. So, you know, I mean, that's, you know, yeah.
And again, I'm going to end it the way we started, again, with 2 Corinthians 10, starting in verse 4. For the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but have divine power to destroy strongholds. We destroy arguments, not people.
Mm-hmm.
We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God, and take every thought captive to obey Christ.
Amen.
That's what I'm doing. That's what Adam is doing. That's what the urban apologists are trying to do. We're trying to defend the faith and empower the faithful at the same time, so that they could do it as well. Right. So,
yeah. Can I say one more thing?
Sure, man.
I know we've been on here for a while, man. I'm just make this real quick. You know,
go ahead.
My encouragement to everybody in the urban apologist community is stay on mission. I'm saying we've been given the Great Commission. We know we're out here, what we're supposed to be doing. Stay on mission. And let's not get sidetracked with a lot of drama, with a lot of tension unnecessarily. Sometimes, you know, iron sharpens iron. Sometimes we got to get it in. You know what I'm saying? I understand that. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes it's appropriate for us to challenge one another, call each other out. Definitely not speaking against that whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, you don't want that to turn into an endless, you know, drama type of thing where we get off base and cats are, you know, missing out on Christ, you know.
Start looking like Love and Hip Hop out here. You know?
Yeah, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. What we want to do, and you can look at church history. You know, you deal with problems head on, you address it with the word, get to the bottom of it, and you keep it moving. I'm saying that's the story of the church. That's I think a model for the you know, the urban apologist community. We keep moving forward.
Amen. Sounds good. Yeah. And with that being said, that's Adam Coleman. I am the BK Apologist, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.
Peace.